Right now, a digital phenomenon has completely captivated the nation of Korea. It's a sprawling multiplayer universe where players can forge their own deadly dungeons. But among all the contenders, the hero of our tale, Kang Chi-woo, is a player of truly legendary skill. He's so dominant that many believe he's either a hacker or a powerful AI. Honestly, the man perpetually sits enthroned at rank 1. Considering his cold demeanor and emotionless expression, it is perfectly logical for people to mistake him for an artificial being. His obsession with this game stems from one simple fact. Within his digital walls, he is an absolute god. It's a stark contrast to reality, where every simple task feels like an impossible trial. Just take these ordinary telephone poles, for example. In this world, he is powerless to move them. He can't manipulate or alter them in any way to achieve peak efficiency. Yet in the game, he could reshape their very essence, their size, their form, all with a mere thought and a click of his mouse. Even that massive truck barreling towards him, he could have simply willed it out of existence. But this is not a game. This is his reality, and he's absolutely certain this is his one-way ticket to another world. Miraculously, the driver slams on the brakes, stopping just in the nick of time. He's enraged to find Chi-woo just standing defiantly in the street. But our hero coolly just points a single finger at the traffic signal. The pedestrian light is shining a brilliant, undeniable green. The powerlessness of this world is an endless source of frustration. If only he could bend the rules of reality like he did in the game, life would be so much more efficient. For instance, that colossal iron reinforcing bar that has broken loose and is now plummeting down. In mere moments, it will undoubtedly crush that innocent little girl below. There is no other path, no other option. Kang Chi-woo explodes into a desperate sprint, shoving the girl to safety and taking the fatal impact meant for her. But as every legend knows, this is not where his story concludes. When consciousness returns to him once more, he finds his very essence floating in an endless, black expanse. Before him materializes a terrifying, demonic entity. It imparts a chilling piece of cosmic wisdom upon him. Death is not an end, but merely a gateway to rebirth. And Chi-woo has yet to witness the true nature of the universe he inhabited. With these cryptic words, Chi-woo's soul is violently cast into the vessel of a demon. His mind is a whirlwind of questions, chief among them being, where is he? Whose body has he claimed? And why did he not truly perish? But one truth is certain. He is absolutely sure he has been reborn into a new existence. The flood of overwhelming physical sensations assaulting his mind is undeniable proof that this reality is not a dream. As for his location, all he can discern is the cold stone of an ancient castle. While lost in a haze of confusion and self-question, a searing pain explodes as a sharp blade is driven straight through his chest, unleashing a torrent of crimson blood. His attacker, a woman, rips the sword back out, inflicting even greater agony while she savors the sight of his torment. Chi-woo has no idea how he is even able to remain conscious after sustaining such a grievously fatal wound. He turns to her, his voice strained, asking why she would do this. The cruel woman doesn't even deign to offer an explanation. She raises her sword once more, ready to utterly annihilate Chi-woo's existence. But her killing blow is halted by the sudden arrival of another man on the scene. It becomes clear the three of them share the same bloodline. He learns that the girl's name is Kildara, his sister. The older brother, who has just appeared, feigns pity for his tormented younger sibling. He tells her sister to temper her cruelty towards him. He then kneels, meeting Chi-woo's gaze, and offers him a small potion. His gentle act is a masterful deception of concern, which convinces our boy that this man might actually possess some kindness. He accepts the vial, believing it must contain some sort of healing draught. But the moment he drinks it, he learns a brutal lesson. It is a potent poison, and he immediately retches. By the way, his new identity in this hellscape is Kella. His throat feels as if it's been shredded by 1,000 daggers, and a searing heat builds as if his very blood is boiling. Witnessing his agony, his vile sister feigns alarm. She starts to think he is on the verge of death, which is a problem, as she desires the honor of taking his life. The older brother assures her that while Kella is suffering immensely, this worthless trash won't be killed off so easily. Suddenly, the colossal castle gates swing open, and the royal guards announce the triumphant return of King Hel Khaldun from his latest hero-slaying crusade. It's then revealed that this mighty king is the father of these pathetic, cruel siblings who have been torturing Kella. As he draws closer, the king radiates the aura of an absolute tyrant. A look of pure, uncompromising authority is etched onto his face. Right now, he is utterly disgusted to hear the pitiful sounds of agony defiling the halls of his fortress. The wretched sister immediately begins to grovel for the disturbance, attempting to cast all the blame upon the weakened Kella. But the Demon King is not one for their pathetic excuses. In a terrifying flash, he closes the gap between them, his hands snapping around both of his children's throats, and begins to choke them with a grip that could shatter mountains. In his estimation, it is a great dishonor for the weak and powerless to dare make a sound within the sacred walls of his domain. Both siblings desperately try to apologize through strangled breaths. It is in this moment that Kella realizes this monster is his father, and that means those two worthless parasites must be his siblings. The Demon King then turns his wrath upon the helpless Kella. After all, the only sounds he will ever permit in his castle are the cries of a mighty demon lord being born into this world, or the sound of a warrior's glorious death in battle. With that declaration, he brings his boot down on Kella, crushing him like an insignificant insect. His screams of pure agony echo throughout the entire fortress as Kella lies there, broken and defeated. One fact becomes undeniably, terrifyingly clear. This is not a nightmare. He has, without a doubt, been reincarnated into a different world. And as if this cosmic joke couldn't get any crueler, he is now the son of a tyrannical demon lord. Before we continue this brutal saga, let us journey back through the mists of time to when Kella was but a child. As always, he was nothing more than a plaything for his cruel siblings, and his only recourse was to weep and complain to his demonic mother, while Tildura would gouge his eye out with a dining fork. His brother Tarm would lace his meals with agonizing poisons. The only comfort his loving mother offers is for him to strike back, like a true demon would. Kella knew he had the power, but he was terrified of the retribution he would face from his siblings. He feared that their retaliation would mean his end. If that was the case, his mother simply advises that he must kill them before they have the chance. You see, Kella's father slaughtered 12 of his own brothers to ascend to the throne of the great Demon King. Therefore, it is the natural order that if someone attempts to kill Kella, he must eliminate them without a moment's hesitation. She then unsheaths her personal dagger, and without warning, plunges it deep into the poor child's stomach, demonstrating the true way of the demons. This is exactly how he should deal with his siblings. Instantly, Kella awakens from his horrifying dream, gasping for air. A maidservant is beside his bed, her face etched with relief to see him awake. Meanwhile, our hero is slowly connecting the dreadful dots. What he had just witnessed in his slumber were not dreams, but fractured memories from the soul of this body's previous owner, the memories of Kella Khaldun. He then sees that his wounds have completely vanished. This means the original owner of this body possessed an unbelievable, almost godlike, regenerative power. The maid informs him that he's been unconscious for several days. She urges him to rise and join his family for a meal to restore his depleted strength. This woman, as it turns out, is Kella's own personal attendant. Her name, he recalls, is Rin. The original Kella was far more gentle compared to his vicious siblings, a weakness for which he was constantly scorned. Even this maid, Rin, does not afford him the respect a master deserves. He can access countless memories of Rin's insolence, and not a single one of them is respectable. She was never the dutiful, obedient servant. She would consistently shirk her responsibilities in favor of leisure. To put it plainly, she's a complete and utter brat. For the first time, Kella agrees that the former owner of this vessel was truly pathetic, because if he hadn't been so weak, he would have never allowed a mere servant to disrespect the son of the Demon King in such a manner. Basically, the original Kella was a punching bag for the entire castle. Now that he truly considers it, his life in this world is hardly different from the miserable one he left behind. At this stage, It is simply the immutable law of nature that the weak are devoured by the strong. Later, as he takes his seat at the family's dining table, he is met by the cold glares of his father and siblings. The Demon King appears noticeably displeased with Kella's tardiness. Kella feels a primal fear instinctively rise within him. But what can one expect when in the presence of the Demon King himself? It is only natural. Still, he calmly takes his designated place and apologizes for his late arrival. The poor boy cannot seem to find a moment's peace. His wicked sister, Caldera, discreetly launches a razor-sharp dagger under the table, which embeds itself in his leg. The attack, of course, causes him excruciating pain, while Caldera and her own servant cackle like a pack of deranged hyenas. She mocks him, hoping he'll eat heartily and grow into a fine young man. Internally, Kella is screaming from the sheer agony of the wound. He can only imagine the horrific consequences if this demonic family were to discover that the soul residing within this body is no longer their pathetic Kella. Regardless, he maintains a calm exterior, expressing gratitude for her feigned concern and vowing to eat his meal well. But the very instant he takes his first spoonful, he is assaulted by the realization that what he's consuming is not food. This foul play is undoubtedly the work of Tarm, as per usual, who, in place of a proper meal, has served him a disgusting, putrid soup as an opening course. Tarm maintains a gentle, caring smile upon his face, masterfully playing the part of a concerned older brother. But Kella can see through this paper-thin charade all too clearly. If he were to be completely and brutally honest, the three demonic beings seated here are not his family at all. They are his sworn enemies. It is here that he makes a solemn vow. He will no longer be a victim for these monsters to toy with. He is finished with their sadistic games, and he will enact a change. He had always yearned to achieve greatness on his own terms. In the game, he was lauded as the undisputed master map architect. But when it came to the challenges of the real world, he was completely and utterly useless. He was absolutely powerless, utterly without hope, with no salvation to be found from any corner of the world. And because of that weakness, he met a pitiful end beneath a fallen iron bar. But this time, he refuses to die a pathetic death, with that resolve burning inside him. He snatches a platter of food and smashes it directly into his sister's face. After all, why should he be the only one to sample the foul concoction Tarm made with such care? Furthermore, he rips the dagger from his leg and hurls it with deadly accuracy at Tarm. His brother shouldn't be excluded from enjoying the gift his sister had given. Naturally, the Demon King has no idea what has just possessed Kella. All of a sudden, the boy has gone completely berserk. He then seizes the entire dining table and flips it with immense force, sending everything scattering across the great hall. A short time later, we see Kella again, who appears completely satisfied, after forcing his family to taste their own cruel medicine. Although, in hindsight, he probably shouldn't have flipped the table, because that act enraged his father beyond all rational thought. The poor boy Kella is then beaten into the ground like a worthless animal. However, his body recovers with supernatural speed, so he isn't complaining. He can feel a powerful alien energy within him, making him truly believe he is the son of the Demon King. For the time being, he wants to explore the full extent of his newfound powers, as if summoned by his thoughts. His mate appears, reminding him about the training he is scheduled to attend. On the subject of demonic abilities, Kella responds with icy coldness, warning her that he will not abide her disrespectful, commanding tone. Naturally, Rin is completely stunned by this sudden change in his demeanor. In the meantime, Kella contemplates these so-called demonic power lessons he must attend. From what he could piece together from the original Kella's memories, they are some of the most torturous experiences imaginable. Still, that is not a valid reason to avoid them. Later, once he arrives at the designated training area, the instructor announces that Lady Caldera and Lord Tarm will not be attending the session today. Although, the instructor is pleased that the rest of the student body is present. Among the assembled students stands Kella, who does not seem to have a favorable opinion of the trash standing on either side of him. He recognizes them from Kella's fragmented memories, and the memories he has of these individuals are far from pleasant. In those faded recollections, these bastards would relentlessly beat the timid and gentle Kella, claiming that it was merely for practice. Every single one of them, including his own siblings, were true, unadulterated demons. They took immense pleasure in bullying him as if it were a delightful game. Even though Kella never possessed the desire to fight back, or to even continue their so-called training duels. They would always invent some pathetic excuse to beat him senseless. For the new Kella, one truth has become as clear as glass. The previous soul inhabiting this body wasn't weak at all, but he was simply far too compassionate for his own survival. Now that the kind and gentle Kella is no more, the new Kella intends to change the entire game. He is going to seize these incredible powers for his own ambitions, and he will show these arrogant bastards how worthless they truly are. As the session commences, the instructor declares that they are resuming the sparring matches they had begun in the previous class session. The arrogant red-haired demon claims that it was he who had been Kella's opponent last time. The insolent redhead can't resist hurling insults to provoke Kella, but this is a fatal error he should not be making, and Kella is certain that he is about to regret it deeply. As the two combatants stand ready to face each other, the redhead gathers crackling red and blue energy around his fists, fully prepared to battle. The spectators are completely sure that Kella is about to be utterly humiliated. Again, some of them even advise the redhead to take it easy on Kella because they cannot bear to hear his pathetic, whimpering cries. By the way, this arrogant bastard's name is Rude. Kella takes careful note of how these pathetic fools are just like the bullies from his former life. In many ways, they serve as a painful reminder of his old, powerless self, just like in his previous existence. He possessed no wealth or power, and everyone treated him with contempt. But now all of that weakness belongs to the past. With that thought, our hero begins to unleash a colossal wave of mana, an amount so overwhelming it causes his opponent to freeze in sheer terror. And it's not just him. Every single one of the jackasses who delighted in tormenting Kella are now paralyzed with fear. Rude looks as if he is about to suffer a catastrophic internal failure. The pressure is so suffocating, so immense, that his feet are practically fused to the training floor. Kella, on the other hand, clenches his fist and unleashes a punch of such devastating force that it drives that worthless bastard deep into the ground. All of those fools who were just moments ago mocking Kella now stand with their jaws hanging completely open. Even the instructor is drenched in a cold sweat of fear. The simple fact that Rude didn't have a single moment to react is completely and utterly mind-shattering. Rude's face is now a bloody ruin, with his horns shattered and his teeth knocked out. Blood pours freely from his wounds. Kella, however, is not finished with him. This single punch was meant to deliver a clear message. Kella is not some insignificant street urchin. He is the son of the almighty Demon King, and he will not suffer anyone. To speak disrespectfully of a member of the royal family, Rude can only manage a pathetic, whispered apology, because he genuinely does not wish to be executed right here. Kella bestows upon him one final, terrifying glare, ensuring that the bastard understands never to try this again. Meanwhile, a chilling wave of pure dread begins to wash over the worthless fools who are still standing on the sidelines. They cannot fathom that this is the same pathetic loser Kella they used to torment. Now, Kella has elevated himself to the level of a true predator. His mere presence alone is causing even the instructor to fear for his very life. Kella turns his cold gaze upon his worthless teacher, insisting that he continue the lesson, as he's meant to. In the background, Rin is also completely mesmerized by this new side of Kella. It is something she has never witnessed before in her life. For the first time, she is utterly convinced that something strange is afoot. We then cut away to the Demon King, who is observing this entire spectacle from his high balcony. We return to the cold halls of Hell, Khaldun's fortress, where Kella's enraged siblings have now gathered together. Seldra is absolutely seething. She cannot believe that insolent brat dared to smash poisoned food into her face. And Tarm has not forgotten the brutal humiliation he suffered either. For now, Tarm advises his sister to calm her rage and concentrate on healing. After all, she does not possess Kella's terrifying regenerative powers. This fact only serves to infuriate her further, and she erupts into a furious tantrum, lamenting how only that worthless brat was gifted with such regenerative might. Tarm is now certain that Kella has undergone some kind of fundamental personality transformation. He cannot stop replaying the moment Kella audaciously overturned the entire table and issued a royal decree that from now on, everyone would be required to dine in their private quarters. That act alone caused their father to crack a genuine smile, something neither of them had ever seen in their entire existence. Seldara's rage burns with the heat of 1,000 suns. The very notion that their father would smile for a worthless creature like Kella is driving her to the brink of madness. Tarmi completely shares her sentiment. He then declares that he would rather perish than ever ally himself with her. But the current situation has become too dangerous. He finds himself with no other choice. He proposes that they form a temporary truce and eliminate Kella first. A wicked smile spreads across Kildara's face, a clear sign of her agreement. She, too, desires to deal with her little brother before Kella has another opportunity to win their father's favor. We then return to Kella back in the demonic classroom. He is completely startled when the instructor projects a holographic image of the previous Demon King, the legendary Turk Khaldun. The mere sight of Turk is enough to terrify Kella. The instructor's lecture continues, explaining how Turk was revered as the most powerful demon of his era. His ultimate defeat was orchestrated by a cowardly plot, carried out by the nefarious Heaven Guild. Since that day, countless guilds have begun to encroach upon the demonic kingdom's territory, each one vying for the glory of annihilating the demons forever. Kella is already well aware of these so-called guilds. From Kella's memories, it seems that due to these guild members, the original Kella was never permitted to leave the castle and experience freedom. Existing in this hellish prison was a miserable fate. The teacher further explains that, with a massive Heaven Guild as their main force, these wretched humans are preparing to launch an all-out assault on the Demon Kingdom. Therefore, in order to assist King Hell in their annihilation, the instructor commands that every student must dedicate their entire being to combat training. Every student roars with fervent enthusiasm, pledging their lives to their Demon King. We cut back to Kella, who is now perched at the highest peak of the castle, surveying the vast territory below him. He needs to devise a method of escape. After all, if he remains here, he might become a victim of his siblings' treacherous plots and die a meaningless death. According to his maid, Rin, his father is scheduled to depart the castle for his next hero hunt in just 3 days' time. Kella then quizzes her on whether she knows the single greatest weakness of his fortress. Rin is perplexed as to why Kella has adopted such a serious demeanor, but she simply answers that she does not know. Kella then reveals the fatal flaw. There is no master cartographer to assist them in navigating the treacherous battlefield. The human guild scum are exploiting the untamed territories surrounding them to launch their devastating assaults. Kella refuses to waste a single moment. Before his father embarks on his next great campaign, he intends to meticulously map out the entire surrounding region. He is convinced this is the only way he can truly assist his father in eradicating every last one of those human bastards that currently encircle their homeland. While the original Kella failed in his escape attempts on numerous occasions, the new Kella is determined to make his own escape a triumphant success. He possesses far more freedom here than he ever did in his previous world, and he is supremely confident he will succeed in crafting the perfect map. He abruptly turns his attention to Rin, commanding her to establish a secret workshop in the castle's deepest basement immediately, as he requires a space to conduct his work in secret, without his father discovering his ambitious plans. We then cut back to the Demon King himself, who already seems to be aware of Kella's clandestine escape plan. He is quite certain that Kella will be unable to flee from his father's ever-watchful gaze. Therefore, before it is too late, the king has decided to set his own master plan into motion. The following scene opens with Kella's utterly disappointed expression. The space that Rin selected for him is not what he had envisioned. It resembles a dusty old storeroom more than a grand, elegant office, worthy of the son of the great Demon King. Poor Rin begins to weep uncontrollably, explaining that this was the absolute best location she could secure, especially considering she was given strict orders that the space must remain a total secret. It seems that Kella is berating her with deliberate intent in order to forge a proper master and servant relationship between the two of them. And it appears his change in attitude is proving to be quite effective. Rin can sense that he has become significantly more intimidated, a trait that bears no resemblance to the old Kella she once knew. At the same time, she cannot help but acknowledge how impressive he has become. He now comports himself with such regal grace and immense authority that it is honestly making her feel a little bit flustered. Kella snaps at her once more for wasting precious time with her daydreams and commands her to immediately bring him a cup of coffee. The poor girl scurries away to fulfill his strange request. In the meantime, Kella can finally concentrate on his master plan. He unfurls the enormous map across the surface of the table. After analyzing how the demon castle is at a severe geographic disadvantage, he has resolved to create his own superior map. Meanwhile, Rin is frantically racing through the empty castle corridors, desperately attempting to carry out her master's orders. She is so focused on her task that she doesn't even comprehend that coffee does not exist in this world, and she has absolutely no idea how to fulfill this bizarre command. Just then, she is startled by the sudden appearance of the demon king himself. He demands to know what she is doing in the basement without Kella, and where Kella is at this very moment. The poor girl immediately begins to panic. After all, she was given strict orders to keep his new office a secret. But under the Demon King's intimidating and piercing gaze, she is uncertain how much longer she can maintain her silence. In the meantime, Kella is experiencing the time of his life, effortlessly creating his masterpiece map with ease. He is truly enjoying himself as he charts out the new terrain. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocks the front gate of his workshop. Of course, it is his father, looking absolutely enraged to discover that Kella has established a secret office without first reporting this to him, his king. The poor boy doesn't even have a moment to defend himself before his father delivers a devastating blow directly to his stomach. His father demands that he confront him directly like a true warrior, not cower in a basement plotting the king's demise like a coward. The agony Kella is experiencing is on an entirely different plane compared to the petty torments inflicted by his siblings. If this assault continues for even a few more moments, Kella is absolutely certain that he will perish. Before that can happen, he swiftly presents the completed map to his father. The Demon King is utterly bewildered. He does not comprehend what Kella is attempting to achieve by showing him a map. Kella begins to speak with incredible speed and passion, revealing how the outer regions of the castle are at a severe geographical disadvantage for their upcoming battles against the invading guilds. If they were to alter the geography according to his new map, it would provide them with a massive advantage in the coming war. Finally, the Demon King begins to understand, and he lowers his fist, although he still does not see the need for Kella to establish a secret headquarters in the first place. Kella, without a moment's hesitation, quickly explains that it would have been far too presumptuous to directly declare that he wanted to aid the mighty Demon King in his glorious conquests. That is why he chose to present the revised map first, rather than making such an audacious and bold proclamation. Now that he has proven his value with this strategic map, he humbly requests that his father accept his assistance in eradicating the forces of heaven. Rin, who is watching from the shadows, is on the verge of a complete breakdown. She is baffled as to why Kella is being so reckless, addressing the Demon King with such brazen self-assurance. She believes he is actively trying to get himself executed, but it appears that Rin is simply overanalyzing the situation. The Demon King only asks how long it will take to finish the map. Kella's face lights up like a child who has been given a new toy, realizing that his father has actually given his approval for the map. He proudly displays all 5 fingers of his hand. The Demon King misinterprets this gesture, however, and assumes Kella is requesting a period of 5 days. So our hero quickly rectifies the misunderstanding by assuring him that it will only require a mere 5 hours. And once the map has been finalized, they can complete all the required construction work before the great battle with heaven commences. The Demon King is visibly surprised by his son's newfound audacity. After a moment, he actually allows a smile to grace his lips, and he grants Kella all the necessary authorizations that he requires. However, the Demon King delivers a chilling warning to Kella. If he discovers that he is all talk and no substance, he will be forced to pay the ultimate price with his life. With those final words, the Demon King departs from the room. Suddenly, Kella is overcome by a wave of intense pain and vomits blood, the after effects of the brutal blow he received from his father. On a more serious note, he cannot shake the terrifying thought that his own father would have killed him if he hadn't managed to prove his worth. Meanwhile, Rin feels a powerful surge of admiration for her master. Her master actually managed to negotiate with the legendary Demon King and came out on top. Of course, the poor girl is once again berated for standing around uselessly and is ordered to escort Kella to the castle's medical wing. Just as Kella had promised, he finalizes the map in a record-breaking time of 5 hours. The Demon King's legions gather and commence massive construction efforts, adhering to the new strategic plan. The royal mages conjure powerful illusion magic around the construction zone, completely altering the appearance of the geography. So the enemy will have no clue what is transpiring behind the scenes, just as Kella had conquered every map in the virtual world. This one is also destined to be a monumental success. We now shift our focus to the Heaven Guild's War Council. The Heaven Guild's master, Hermeson, delivers a grave announcement to his commanders. The demons are actively transforming the surrounding landscape to their own tactical advantage. They have also confirmed that the demons are employing powerful illusion magic. One of the younger commanders questions if they should immediately launch an assault to disrupt the demons' preparations. The old man responds with a resounding no. As far as his brilliant strategic mind can deduce, launching an attack at this stage would be a futile effort, since they're already too far behind schedule. Their only viable course of action is to proceed with their original plan. In 3 days' time, the most powerful squad ever assembled in Talua, known as the Fearsome Talcan, will be arriving. The nation of Talua has been meticulously training Talcan, their most elite fighting force for many decades. Now, that legendary squad is finally at its absolute peak. He is certain that those insignificant demons will be unable to defeat the strongest elite squad in existence, which has been preparing for decades for this very moment, and will be arriving in a mere 3 days. That is why he is completely confident the great Demon King will soon fall. We cut to the Talcan squad, advancing at maximum speed towards their destination. They are fully confident that they will arrive at the Demon King's fortress in just 2 days. Leading this unstoppable force is their legendary General Kilm. He is absolutely brimming with battle lust. He rallies his elite squad, proclaiming that they will be the ones to finally topple the great Demon King, whose reign has endured for countless thousands of years. The rest of the squad is equally filled with bloodlust, eager to burn the demon castle to the very ground and slaughter every single creature that resides within. Riding her steed below is the valiant Shrills, the commander of the army. She is immensely proud of General Kilman's inspiring leadership. Her subordinate asks if they can truly defeat the Demon King this time. Shrill's response is filled with unwavering confidence. The Talcan squad is unlike any other guild in existence. The fortress's destruction is no longer a fantasy. It is merely a matter of time. Meanwhile, the great Demon King finds himself deeply satisfied after witnessing the undeniable strategic brilliance of Kella's new map. While the strategy is not without its flaws, it is a far better weapon than none, especially as his own body nears its breaking point. He knows there are few other paths to victory left for him to take. The morrow will be the day of final reckoning against the forces of heaven. The mages and demons now toil with relentless fury, racing to complete the vital construction work. Before the final hour strikes, Kella observes the monumental progress. He can now sense the profound chasm between designing a game map and actually reshaping the very fabric of the real world. Nevertheless, there is a thrilling ecstasy in possessing the might to bend the land to his will. All that remains for him to do now is to witness the epic clash between hell and heaven finally ignite. Tomorrow's battle will be the ultimate test of his map's true power. At long last, the day of the prophesied battle has dawned. The legions of heaven have fully assembled, and the legendary Talcan squad has joined their ranks. The soldiers chant the name of Talcan with reverence, hailing their immense power. Guildmaster Hermeson meets with the great commander Kilman. Kilman voices his burning desire to storm the Demon King's accursed territory and utterly annihilate them for all time. The old master is prepared to enact their grand design, and before commencing their great march, the soldiers raise their weapons to the sky, letting out a thunderous war cry. Then, from seemingly nowhere, a small, shimmering blue orb materializes between Kilman and Hermeson's feet. It appears to be some kind of dimensional rift, and it is expanding at an alarming rate. Kilman roars at his men to brace themselves for a surprise enemy assault, commanding them to form a tight defensive perimeter. And from the heart of that azure vortex, the Demon King himself, the legendary Hell Khaldun, makes his grand entrance. To comprehend why the Demon King would dare appear on the front lines, we must return to a crucial moment just before the battle. Kella reveals a critical secret to his father. He has successfully dismantled the barrier that focused Heaven's scrying magic directly upon their castle. This monumental feat means his father can now utilize teleportation magic, completely undetected by any of their enemies. In mere moments, the mighty Demon King will materialize, right in the epicenter of Heaven's main encampment. Naturally, his treacherous daughter objects to this plan. She argues that teleporting directly into the enemy's heart is a fool's errand. Tarmi also agrees, adding that it is far too perilous, even for the legendary Demon King. The Demon King is incandescent with rage at their words. It feels as if his own flesh and blood are doubting his supreme power. Both siblings shrink back in terror under their father's fiery gaze. What they were truly attempting to convey is that his body has not yet fully healed, and he should not take such a grave risk. But the Demon King has heard enough of their whining. He commands their immediate silence, reminding them that he, and only he, will determine what is right and wrong. His decision has already been irrevocably made. He will commence the slaughter from within the very heart of Heaven's base. Returning to the present moment, the Demon King vows to obliterate every last one of his enemies. Killman, on the other side, is equally resolved to make certain that the Demon King will bitterly regret his arrogant decision. He swiftly commands his legendary Talcan squad to open fire. Meanwhile, Kella has positioned all of his demonic forces exactly where they are needed, with all preparations finalized. He gives the order for his army to begin their charge. The terrifying demonic horde roars as they surge forward, while the soldiers of Heaven begin to unleash their offensive magic spells. But the forces of Heaven are completely blindsided when, from nowhere, a colossal number of demons erupt from the very ground beneath them and begin to tear into the human soldiers. Kella observes the chaos from a high vantage point. Despite the unfolding carnage below, he cannot suppress a smirk of satisfaction. He sees that everything is proceeding exactly according to his master plan, just as Kella is savoring the perfect execution of his strategy. His treacherous siblings arrive, their intentions as black as the abyss. They will not allow him to hoard all the glory and praise for himself. Therefore, Kella's life must be extinguished here and now. Tarmi unleashes his grotesque living whip, impaling Kella directly through his midsection. The tendril burrows ever deeper into his flesh, continuing its vicious assault, lodging itself further inside, while Tarmi forces the vile tentacle even deeper. He commands his sister Keldra to make her own deadly move. She surges toward Kella with her blade drawn, and in a single, lightning-fast motion, she decapitates him as if he were nothing. The two treacherous siblings share a victorious, wicked smile, as Kella's severed head is sent flying through the air. While he may possess insane, regenerative capabilities, his siblings are absolutely certain he will not escape his final doom. This time, Kella Kalden's head was sent soaring from his shoulders, painting the castle stones in a spray of crimson. His lifeless body plummeted from the castle ramparts, crashing to the ground below. The earth was stained a deep red with the last flickering embers of his life. Kella could only produce a choked, gurgling sound. His traitorous siblings, Tarmi and Fildera, gazed down with sheer delight, admiring their bloody handiwork. Just as Tarmi was about to depart to aid his father in battle, Caldera instantly seized this moment of distraction to plunge her blade into his vital weakness. After delivering what is surely a mortal wound, she leaped away from her now doomed brother with incredible speed. Tarmi was completely aghast, recognizing their mother's forbidden cursed blade now in Caldera's hand. The utterly insane Caldera had no regard for such rules, especially those prohibiting the use of certain deadly weapons. They are demons, after all. If she eliminates her last remaining rival in this very moment, she will become the one and only heir to the throne. As Tarmi bled profusely, he charged forward in a final, desperate rage, intending to drag her down into the abyss with him. But the battle was already decided. The moment he was struck by that forbidden, curse blade as they clashed furiously upon the castle rooftop. Their decapitated little brother's life force was slowly extinguished. He could only think about how truly monstrous those two really were. Just before his final breath was taken from him, the ground upon which his body rested suddenly gave way, magically collapsing. Positioned directly below Kella was his ever-loyal servant, Rin. She expertly caught both his head and his body, pulling them to safety, far from any prying, hostile eyes. With desperate haste, she forcefully reattached the separated parts. Trembling with fear and concern, Rin frantically tried to save her master. Meanwhile, the demon army swarms towards the teleportation gates, preparing to launch a devastating surprise attack on Heaven's flank. Unfortunately for them, the humans had already anticipated such a maneuver. Nevertheless, the demons charged onward, devoid of any fear. They were, after all, masters of direct, brutal confrontation. There would be no retreat for either side in this final battle. While the foot soldiers were locked in their bloody, grinding combat, the main event was just amplified by the arrival of a colossal dragon. It had been a very long time since the Demon King, Hel Khaldun, had last faced a mythical beast of this magnitude. Regardless, he toyed with the massive, scaled creature as if it were a mere lizard. Utilizing his raw, unholy strength, he ripped the dragon's entire head off, beheading the beast before it could even launch a single attack. General Killman was utterly horrified. Philly the Dragon was supposed to be one of their ultimate trump cards. In a state of pure panic, he ordered the Mage Brigade to unleash their full power, following an ungodly torrent of raw mana. The general anxiously waited for the smoke and dust to settle, praying to the heavens that they had inflicted enough damage to halt the Demon King. Then, the human forces felt a collective, icy chill crawl up their spines. Hel Khaldun emerged, unscathed from the smoldering wreckage. His body began to twist and contort, transforming into something truly unholy. It radiated an aura of limitless, terrifying power. The final boss has just entered his second phase. General Killman had studied and read about this legendary form in countless ancient historical texts. Throughout the annals of history, there are precious few who have witnessed the Demon King's final form and survived to recount the tale. The terrified soldiers looked to their superiors, desperate for orders, their bodies completely paralyzed by an overwhelming fear, fighting through his own sense of dread. Commander Thrills fought to keep her soldiers' morale from plummeting. Even the mighty General Killman could feel the paralyzing terror beginning to consume his entire body. The Demon King is aware of one single, glaring weakness in Kella's otherwise perfect plan. Even though they can now carry the fight to the heart of Heaven's base, they have, in essence, trapped themselves in a kill or be killed scenario. But as the Demon King, Hel simply could not allow that flaw to stand in the way of this golden opportunity for slaughter. He is accustomed to playing a game with no winners. Somehow, he feels as if his son has factored his immense pride into the equation as well. Casting aside these useless thoughts, Hel focused on the singular task of slaughtering everything in his path. As always, the most effective way to solve any problem is to annihilate everyone until they're all dead. As he assumes his deadly combat stance, General Killman urgently screams a warning to his men of the impending doom. Casting aside all useless emotions and fear, he charged forward, leading the vanguard himself. The Demon King's eyes gleamed with pure, unadulterated brutality. As the Great War finally reached its bloody climax, back in the castle's secret, hidden basement, Rin is still desperately clutching onto her master's broken body, making absolutely sure not to move a single inch. She prayed to any deity that might be listening to please heal young Master Kella. Just a few days prior, Kella had actually forced her to take part in a series of gruesome experiments. He would systematically dismember his own body, and his poor servant's job was to help him reattach the severed limbs. It was a truly grotesque task, but the results were undeniable. Mending a completely severed arm would only take a matter of seconds. After several tests on non-lethal body parts, Kella hardened his resolve to prepare for a full decapitation. Next, he needed to be absolutely certain that his incredible regeneration could save him from even the most catastrophic of injuries. He promised Rin that they would approach the beheading test with caution. After a few nerve-shredding experiments with his own decapitation, Kella had confirmed that he was, for all intents and purposes, immortal. The next phase of his intricate plan was to, of course, leak. A few carefully crafted pieces of false intel to Seldura's personal servant. Rin followed her orders to the letter and leaked a fabricated plan detailing how Kella was plotting to murder Seldura during the chaos of the war while the king was distracted fighting heaven. Naturally, Keldara's loyal servant was absolutely enraged by this news, exploiting her furious reaction. Rin added that the only way to overcome Kella's insane regeneration was to completely sever his head from his body. Back in the present, Rin is gritting her teeth, her heart filled with worry. The insane, risky plan had worked to perfection, but it would all be for naught if her newly reformed, reckless, and idiotic young lord were to die regardless. Before she knew it, the gruesome wound on his neck had completely healed, and the vibrant color of life had returned to his once pale face. Kella truly believed that he had met his end. His rate of recovery must have been slowed due to the mana-infused blade that struck him. But now that he is fully recovered, it is time to proceed to the next phase of his grand design. Rin was just overcome with joy that her master was still among the living. Unable to restrain her emotions a moment longer, she threw her arms around him in a tight embrace. Completely unaccustomed to this sensation in either of his two lives, Kella's face flushed a deep red, and his mind turned to absolute mush. Gently pushing her away, he tried to refocus his mind on the plan. Before they proceeded any further, he gracefully severed Rin's binding servant contract once and for all. With this single act, she would finally regain her long-lost freedom. No longer would she be bound to a life of thankless servitude. Such an unexpectedly kind gesture deeply touched Rin's heart. Now that the magical contract no longer held any power, he advised her to go and live the life she had always dreamed of, with absolutely no strings attached. Seeing him march forward with such a profound sense of dignity caused the newly liberated maiden's heart to flutter with admiration. She was reminded of the very first time they had met as children. The small, sad boy did not desire a servant. He simply wanted a true friend. Remembering how cruelly she had treated him in the years that followed crushed her with guilt. In an attempt to atone for her past mistakes, she begged Kella to please take her back as his humble servant once more. Ignoring his wishes, she continued to follow him through the castle's dark, secret tunnels. Back in the heart of the main battle, General Killman is on his very last legs. He is covered in grievous wounds and staggers on, now with one less eye. The Demon King was not exactly unscathed in the brutal exchange either. Hel Khaldun had lost an entire arm and had sustained other terrible injuries. He was now surrounded by cunning attacks coming from every single angle. But the Demon King still stood tall and unyielding all by himself. Killman is forced to admit that he is no match for such a terrifying monster. In his estimation, no single human could ever hope to stop this catastrophe. Scanning the battlefield, Hel Khaldun assessed that the human forces had been nearly wiped from existence. Naturally, the same could be said for his own loyal soldiers. In this desperate moment, his thoughts turned to his children. He accepted the cold, hard fact that none of them were coming to his aid. Instead of sinking into a state of bitter disappointment, he reminded himself that this was his own personal battle from the very beginning. With the last remnants of his formidable mana, he intended to obliterate everything that still stood in his sight. In the meantime, Kella and Rin have finally reached the light at the far end of the underground passageways. Once he steps outside, he will be completely free from the watchful eyes of the Demon Castle. He will at last be truly free. He was so focused on his goal that he nearly walked right into a deadly trap. If not for Rin's incredibly timely intervention, she leaped in front of him and summoned a powerful magic shield to defend against a barrage of hostile spells. She was right to act the very moment she caught the scent of blood in the air, since there was no longer any point in remaining hidden. Heaven's assassins abandoned their hiding places in the shadows. They had concealed themselves in the tunnels to account for any demons trying to flee. It is a mystery how, but they even had this secret exit route completely covered. These assassins are not here to play games. Their one and only mission is to ensure that the Demon King's entire royal bloodline is utterly extinguished. From a safe distance, they unleashed a rain of deadly spells, which Rin painstakingly deflected with her rapidly cracking magical shield. As the young lord's devoted and willing servant, she is completely determined to prioritize his safety above all else, even above her own precious life. From what Kella can recall from his memories, Rin's abilities are limited to simple defensive magic. She cannot possibly hold out for very long. Beyond that, she can barely even cast a simple offensive spell. She has already saved his life on 2 separate occasions, and now she is attempting to sacrifice her own life just so that he might escape. Kella grabbed her firmly by the shoulder, a stern, determined expression now on his face. He then threw her to the side and chastised the servant for trying to act so strong and brave. If she truly wishes to be his loyal servant that badly, then the very least she can do is manage to stay alive for a little while longer. Witnessing this, the assassins called him a complete and utter fool for casting aside his one and only hope for survival. According to their gathered intelligence, a simple mid-level magic spell is more than enough to execute Kella, the weakest and most pathetic heir in the Demon King's entire castle. What their intelligence failed to account for, however, was the simple truth. Kella had always been a timid and gentle boy. He possessed immense power, but never had the heart to truly wield it. With a new, ruthless soul now in control, that is no longer the case. Which means that the intel the humans possess is now completely worthless. They truly believe that the son of the Demon King was nothing more than a simple, low-rank scrub. To prove them catastrophically wrong, Kella dispatched one of the assassins with a single, devastating punch. They really should have double-checked their sources next time. Caught firmly in his powerful grip, another assassin tried to beg for his life before being crushed into nothing. Defeating one of Heaven's elite mage assassins is no simple task. As the remainder of the cloaked group began to panic, Kella directed his immense bloodlust directly at them. In this now compromised and desperate situation, there's only one final gambit that the mages can employ: the legendary light spear spell. With this forbidden technique, they can pool their meager mana reserves into a single, devastatingly powerful attack. The terrible downside is failing to execute it properly will result in a fatal and explosive blowback. Sensing the sheer power of this terrifying spell, Rin tried to beg her master to retreat and fall back, but it was already too late. Both of them were impaled by countless spears of pure light. Grievously wounded, Kella was stunned as he felt completely and utterly paralyzed. Rin was also caught in the grip of the petrifying magical spell. She apologized profusely for having failed her master. Yet again, the remaining mages were completely exhausted, but relieved that their final gambit had worked. Drawing their sharp blades, they strode forward with absolute confidence to finally finish the job. One of the bastards proposed that they should be handsomely rewarded for all of their troubles. The restrained servant girl would be fun to toy with before they finally conclude their sacred mission. Never showing even the slightest hint of fear, Rin screamed defiantly at the disgusting human scumbags. This is Kella's first true look at the humans of this new world. Just as it was in his previous pathetic life, humans are still capable of the most deplorable and vile evils, turning their cruel attention to the son of the Demon King. The lead mage coated his sword in a shimmering layer of mana. Kella was literally just a dozen steps away from true freedom. After surviving a full decapitation, he could not possibly fall here now. Right as the gleaming blade swung downwards, the young lord felt as though time itself had completely stopped, at a complete and utter standstill. Something or someone is coming. When he opened his eyes again, the spectral avatar of his father stood before him. At first, he believed that the Demon King had successfully concluded the Great War. If that were the case, his grand plan of liberation would be utterly ruined. Then, Hel Khaldun began to address him with the utmost and sincere gravity. As the Demon King, he has fought in countless bloody wars and has considered every single possibility just as many times. In his view, Solera is nothing more than a spoiled brat who does not possess a single ounce of consideration for her fellow demons. Tarmon, on the other hand, possesses no ambition to lead the demon kingdom. Confused and agitated, Kella demanded that his father explain what was truly happening. Completely ignoring his questions, Hel asserted that a demon king has the unique ability to pass his mana down to his bloodline just before perishing, though it was only for a very brief period of time. Hel had come to the conclusion that Kella was the only suitable candidate to inherit the throne of the Demon King. Knowing that this would completely derail his plans for freedom, Kella tried desperately to refuse, but he had no say in this matter. The Demon King's decision had already been finalized, and so Hel Khaldun compressed all of the remaining mana within his body to his heir and son, Khaldun, completely against his will. The young lord was forced to absorb the dark orb of highly concentrated power directly into his body. With a somber look in his spectral eyes, Hel wished for his son not to mourn his father's impending death, and to act like a true and ruthless demon from this day forward. Back on the main, blood-soaked battlefield, the very last spark of life left. The now severed head of the great Demon King. Commander Shrill stood, completely speechless, weakly muttering that the Demon King was finally dead. General Killman had been forced to sacrifice himself to make it happen, but his last-ditch, desperate effort had succeeded. Even the remaining human soldiers could not believe their eyes. They are staring at the lifeless corpse of the king. Once the reality of the situation finally sunk in, they all screamed and roared to celebrate their hard-won victory. Unbeknownst to these jubilant humans, the king's son is at this very moment assimilating with the royal demonic power. Upon becoming one with the demon king's immense mana, the pathetic light spears that were holding him and Rin in place dispersed as if they were nothing more than smoke. The mages felt the sudden, terrifying increase in the young lord's mana, and cowered in absolute fear. Kella let out a deranged laugh. In truth, everything had worked out perfectly in the end for him. Now that Hel is dead, and he has inherited an infinite source of power, everything has finally fallen perfectly into place. The mages desperately searched for any possible escape route, now that their own mana reserves were completely depleted. Searching deep within himself, Kella could sense an endless void of pure darkness. The power that Hel had bestowed upon him is simply too immense to fully comprehend. At this current moment, as the mages backed away in sheer terror, Kella calmly asked them to repeat the disgusting threats they were hurling at Rin just a few moments earlier. Sure, he may be a demon by blood, but humans certainly do enjoy claiming that title with their vile words and actions. With the power boost from his father, dealing with these pathetic, weakling mages was as easy as breathing. Hel's power is truly, unbelievably profound, but Kella could feel that. Tapping into it is causing an immense amount of strain on his body. It seems that he cannot yet handle its full might properly. After confirming that Rin was completely unharmed, the master and his loyal servant continued on their way out of this godforsaken, wretched place. Although he was a terrible father, Kella still inwardly thanked Hel for making this final escape possible. As the Demon King's mighty castle burns to ashes in the background, the duo walks through a vast, verdant field of green. For the very first time in his entire life, Kella felt truly and completely free. The possibilities from this point onward are absolutely endless. He can travel anywhere he desires and become anyone he wishes to be. He can finally live the life that he has always craved, while he was basking in the glory of his newfound liberation. A strange, foreign power coalesced around his entire body before he was completely and utterly swallowed by it. Rin immediately identified the fluctuations of magic as a teleportation spell. In a hurry, he grabbed hold of Rin's hand, intending to bring her along to wherever this mysterious spell was taking him. Without a single moment of hesitation, she sealed her resolve to join him wherever he may go. The duo is now headed to a land where magic and innovation flourish, but they are not yet aware of this fact. When they finally landed, the two had absolutely no idea where the spell had taken them. Rin at first believed that her master was the one who had initiated the teleportation, but he quickly denied having anything at all to do with it. He surmises it was an automated spell that was triggered, much like an alarm. His father must have set it up in the event that he perished in battle. Not only were they transported to a completely unknown and foreign land, but all of their lingering, grievous wounds were also completely and miraculously healed. By Kella's careful estimation, they have probably spent 3 whole days suspended within the teleportation space. The Demon King must have intentionally set the duration of the spell, along with the powerful healing magic, in case of a dire emergency. Setting up 2 such high-level spells to trigger simultaneously is not a feat that just anyone can accomplish. He may have been a terrible father, but Khaldun did care about the continued survival of his children. Rin finally pieced the puzzle together and confirmed that the great Demon King was, in fact, dead. With a triumphant smirk, Kella rejoiced at how perfectly his grand plan had worked out. Since the now empty throne has been reduced to ashes, Rin proposes that her master should rightfully take over as the next Demon King. Naturally, that is the absolute last thing in the world that he wants to do. But Rin, who had witnessed the dramatic change he had undergone over the past several days, now sees him as the one and only true successor to the king's powerful legacy. She vowed to serve him to the very best of her considerable abilities until he had properly ascended to the throne by any and all means necessary. He sighed in defeat and allowed her to do as she wished for the time being, since he was severely lacking in manpower at the current moment. After walking for just a few short minutes, they laid their eyes upon the very first clue as to where they had actually landed. Judging by the style of the architecture, they are in the legendary country of magic, Arsal, a place where immense magical talent is nurtured for the single purpose of completely vanquishing the demon race. As the world's center of magic, Arslan is currently in the midst of celebrating the fall of the demon king Hell, praising the glorious light of Talua. The duo was completely baffled as to why the teleportation spell would bring him to the very heart of enemy territory if they're discovered to be demons in this place. A truly grim fate most certainly awaits them. Thinking quickly on her feet, Rin used a powerful transformation magic to conceal her demonic features. She now looks like a normal and quite gorgeous young human woman. Kella quickly followed her example and transformed himself into a punk with a stylishly dyed mullet. Completely ignorant about the land of Arsal, he asked Rin to bring him up to speed on the country of magic. According to her knowledge, Arsal is a small island nation situated on the eastern border of Talua. This place is blessed by the presence of the giant cryptid, Watergore, who lazes about in the nearby waters. The cryptid's powerful presence also enabled the natural flourishing of magic on the entire island, producing countless, incredibly strong mages. More importantly, they have a long-standing, deep-seated blood feud with all demons under the banner of Talua. Kella cannot begin to fathom why his father would send him to this country, of all the places in the world. Naturally, he wants to get out of this hostile area as quickly as possible. However, making a clean escape will require a bit of careful preparation if they wish to do it properly. That is, in order to achieve his grander goals in this new world, a deep understanding of magic will be absolutely essential. There is no better way for him to deepen his arcane knowledge than to immerse himself in a city that is literally overflowing with magic. The arcane arts are completely integrated into the daily lives of the people of Arsal. They even utilize it in the most common of buildings. Some of their structures are entirely reliant on magical power. If Kella could learn and study magic here, he would be able to utilize his gaming knowledge far more effectively. But first things first, they need to get something to eat after having been suspended in a timeless space for 3 long days. Thankfully, Arsal is absolutely teeming with bustling trade, and countless food carts line every single corner of the town square. Upon sampling the country's world-famous magical dish, pastries, Rin was completely and utterly smitten. One food cart was all it took for her to become hopelessly addicted, and so their plan to remain inconspicuous slowly flew out the window. As the two of them hopped from one food cart to the next, leading the charge, Rin sniffed out and enthusiastically tried every single thing she found interesting. Kella is seriously beginning to consider abandoning her in the streets. After an entire day of nonstop feasting, they discovered a magical bar where they could unwind and relax. Inside the lively establishment, the patrons are celebrating the glorious subjugation of the great demon king, and leading the raucous party was none other than Commander Shrills of the Talcon Squad, who was graciously picking up the tab for the entire establishment. The drunken bar patrons joyously celebrated, the greatest mage that Arsal had ever had the honor of producing. Somewhere amongst the boisterous crowd were Kella and Rin. A few mugs of ale were all it took for the lightweight Rin to get completely drunk and begin celebrating right alongside the humans. Enjoying himself, Kella is beginning to think that taking a break every now and then isn't such a bad idea after all. While they were drunkenly enjoying the festivities, they managed to catch the eye of the victorious commander. Her interest was clearly piqued by the rather odd couple, for some as yet unknown reason. A few more rounds later, Kella was forced to run out of the bar to throw up in the street. They had gotten far too excited and had drunk way too much. Beginning to sober up a little, Rin also found it a bit disrespectful that they were partying and celebrating the recent death of the great Demon King. Suddenly, a massive stampede of people came rushing toward the main town square. They were all incredibly excited about a brand new S-rank quest that had been posted for anyone brave enough to take it on. The last S-rank quest, to slay the Demon King, had only just concluded. Yet the authorities are already putting up another one so soon. Ever the curious one, Rin dragged the still nauseous young lord to see what all the commotion was really about. Posted on a massive castle wall was a bounty poster for the Demon King's own son, and the exorbitant price that was being offered for his head. It seems the humans are truly determined to put an end to the royal demonic bloodline once and for all this time. Kella almost drunkenly revealed his true identity to the entire crowd. If it were not for Rin's incredibly timely intervention, most people are well aware that Kella is supposed to be the weakest of all the Demon King's progeny. That means they can claim an S rank level reward for accomplishing what is essentially a B rank difficulty quest. The crowd's venomous words were a shock to his drunken system, instantly slapping the intoxication right out of Kella. He knew he had to become a ghost, to fade into the background. For the moment, that was his only path to survival. As the master and his servant retreated from the town square, Rin posed a critical question. What name should she use for him publicly? After all, to utter his true name here would be a death sentence. After a moment of quiet contemplation, he chose a name from his past life, Chi-Wu. Hearing this strange name, which lacked any sort of royal grandeur, Rin couldn't help but feel a little bit let down. Regardless, that S-rank bounty plastered everywhere was a disastrous development. Chi-Wu had already completely dismissed the idea of staying one more second in Arsal as they discussed the new S-rank quest. The inebriated commander shrills interrupted them, a heavy mug of ale clutched in her hand. While he did not recognize this woman, based on her powerful and intimidating aura alone, Kella could immediately tell that she was a major threat. The patrons in the bar had hailed her as the hope of Arsal. She began to mock the surviving son of the now-dead Demon King, and Kella was forced to bite his tongue and even add to the insults. Being exposed by this powerful woman would be the ultimate disaster. Observing the two of them with a piercing curiosity, the commander casually draped her arms over their shoulders. She then bluntly questioned if the Demon King's worthless offspring could possibly be considered a threat. Back inside the tavern, she had sensed something distinctly odd. These two individuals possessed a strange scent, unlike anyone else there. Just as the master and his servant were about to lose their composure, believing their entire disguise had been completely compromised, the commander delivered another shocking twist. She had only approached them because they reeked of being weary travelers who hadn't enjoyed a proper bath in quite some time. Like a generous host, she warmly invited the two of them to her home to wash up and enjoy a few more drinks at her private residence. Kella and Rin could only share a look of mutual bewilderment, terrified of raising any more suspicion. They robotically agreed to her unexpected invitation, and just like that, they were led to the home of Arsal's Hope, forced to be her guests. Kella was genuinely shocked that the beautiful, red-haired woman had actually provided a luxurious hot springs bath for him to cleanse his weary body. She even provided a wonderful cup of hot tea and an assortment of delicious snacks to go along with it. Based on their incredibly unique and exotic taste, he suspected that even these snacks were crafted with magic, as far back as he could possibly recall. He had always dreamed of living in a world of fantasy and adventure, for the first time since being reborn into this new world. Chi-Wu truly felt like he was finally living that dream. He was buzzed from the ale, well-fed, perfectly clean, and he wielded the power of the Demon King. This whole ice-sky thing wasn't so bad after all. Meanwhile, in the other luxurious bath, Rin was trembling in sheer terror of being exposed as a demon. Lounging right next to her was the formidable Commander Shrills, who was taking immense pride in her enormous bathtub. Her bathtub was incredibly large, round, and quite wet. Can you all see that? She playfully teased that Rin should relax, lest someone mistake her for a demon in disguise. Laughing with incredible awkwardness, she tried to brush it off. To help her unwind, the commander's fingers began to dance. As a fragrant, holy aroma emanated from her hand, Rin instantly recognized the unmistakable essence of the holy element, the most repulsive scent for any demon. Not only does it reek of filth to their senses, but it also has the power to drain demonic mana. If Rin were to remain in this bath for even a few more seconds, her magical disguise would be completely shattered. She desperately wanted to call out to her master for assistance, but Kella was busy sipping his tea and enjoying the hot spring bath. In a surprisingly vulnerable moment, the commander began to confide in this complete stranger she had just met. Shrails confessed that she believed all her pain would disappear once the dreaded Demon King was finally slain. Covering her nose in disgust, Rin just wanted to escape the vile stench of the holy essence. Completely ignoring her obvious discomfort, Shrills continued her tale. She revealed that she was designed and raised to be the ultimate mage. Finally, having reached her breaking point, Rin cut her trauma-filled story short and fled from the bath. She made the excuse that she urgently needed to use the restroom. For a moment, Shrills leaned on the edge of the tub with a mysterious smile. Her assets were shimmering and flushed from the heat. Rin quickly threw on her clothes and frantically found her master waiting in the mansion's opulent hallway. He confessed that he had never felt so utterly relaxed before, but this was clearly not the time to be enjoying themselves. Rin's transformation spell had been nearly broken, and she's absolutely certain that the commander is deeply suspicious. That holy aroma is actually an incredibly complex spell that only a truly advanced mage could possibly conjure. Not fully understanding the gravity of their dangerous situation, Kella wondered aloud if he could squeeze in one more quick bath before they had to make a run for it and escape this place. Sensing Rin's palpable anxiety, the commander casually covered herself and asked if her guests were going to decline a second round with her. Rin awkwardly tried to evade her intense and piercing gaze. Shrills then summoned a small orb of pure mana and promised to conjure up some more magical drinks for her guests, and even some dishes crafted from pure mana. Completely intrigued by the idea of food magic, the young master was easily convinced to stay for a second round with the fiery, red-haired commander. But little did any of them know, a large pack of powerful mages was beginning to amass outside the mansion. They had received credible intelligence about the presence of demons within, and according to their sources, it wasn't just any demon, but the Demon King's own child. This presented a once-in-a-lifetime chance to strike it rich. Back in the living room, Shrills is boasting about her special holy water drink. Both of her disguised demon guests were forced to drink it without flinching, despite the searing, agonizing sensation it caused them. With a look of deep sorrow, Shrills returned to the topic she had been discussing with Rin earlier in the bathtub, and so her tragic life story continued. She had joined the legendary Talcan squad and trained with her life on the line, all for the sole purpose of killing the Demon King. She had countless scars to prove just how hard she had fought. She must have been concealing these scars with powerful magic, because Rin had not noticed them at all earlier. In truth, she was also missing an entire eye. Running down the right side of her face was a gruesome, jagged scar from where her eye had been gouged out. The commander had grown accustomed to hiding her imperfections with magic, since seeing them was a constant reminder of the pain of her past. As nothing more than a child soldier, she and other children of her age were brainwashed to hate the Demon King. They were formed into a special squad, created with the single-minded purpose of deposing Hell Khaldun. They were taught to endure unimaginable levels of pain, all for the sake of the mission. Slowly but surely, she was indoctrinated into their cruel order, adopting their hateful ideology before she even realized. Her entire existence had been dedicated to one single, clear objective, and all she had to show for it were these hideous scars. Driven by a sudden curiosity, she swiftly moved towards Kella, straddled him, and lifted his shirt to see if he also bore any scars. Upon seeing and gently caressing his perfectly smooth skin, completely free of any blemishes or scars, a crazed, manic look appeared in her remaining eye. Rin's internal alarm bells were screaming, and so were Kella's. Shrill's unexpected touch was not only shocking, but was also beginning to melt away his magical disguise. And then, finally, she whispered into his ear directly asking if he was a filthy demon. It was now terrifyingly clear that this woman knew what they were all along. Suddenly, a swarm of rats began to pour out from her fireplace. These rats were instantly incinerated by the uninvited guests, the mages of Arsal. From the looks of the situation, the commander had brought them to her home simply to trap the disguised duo. But surprisingly enough, the mages paid absolutely no attention to either of them. Their focus was entirely on the gruesome scar marring Shrill's face. They claimed that a message from heaven had tipped them off to the fact that the hope of Arslan was concealing her true nature. Shrill of Talkin is a demon who has infiltrated the ranks of Arslan. After being accused of being a secret demon, she did not seem to be bothered in the slightest by the accusation. Kella is starting to get completely lost with all these insane twists and turns. These powerful mages are not here to hunt him down. They are after the legendary hero who slew the mighty demon king. Now that she has no more reason to conceal her true identity, Shrills uses a powerful dark magic to summon forth her royal scepter. She then confessed that she was also the one who had leaked her own dark secret. Now that she has freely admitted to being a demon herself, there is no longer any reason for them to hesitate. The mages unleash their most powerful spells all at the same time. While she may indeed be a demon, she is also the most elite and powerful mage of the Talkin squad. A dozen or so pathetic, worthless mages from Arsal could never even dream of defeating just one of her. Terrified that they might get caught in the deadly magical crossfire, Rin begged her master to get them both out of the way. But before they could move, a dark, violent explosion filled the entire room. Densely packed concentrations of raw mana erupted all at once. When the thick, black smoke finally cleared, the master and his servant were, surprisingly, completely unscathed. Shriels had effortlessly deflected the seemingly catastrophic barrage of spells, without so much as breaking a single sweat. The enigmatic commander of the Talkin squad had just protected them. Shriels knew from the very beginning that they were demons. They simply cannot hide their true nature from her keen sense of smell. To put the two of them at ease, she properly introduced herself as Shriels Khaldun, the true daughter of the Demon King. Hell Khaldun. After that bombshell detonated in the room, the young master and his servant were left utterly speechless. In the interest of saving time, Shrills summoned a tiny speck of mana to explain everything through the use of memory transfer magic. Suddenly, the duo's vision was completely taken over by a scene from the distant past. It featured the Demon King and one of his most trusted aides. It was the fateful day when they finally cracked the code and managed to successfully create a demon who could completely conceal her horns and her immense demonic power. On that day, a young Shrills was in absolute awe of the great ruler. He informed her that his own royal blood now ran through her veins, and that she would now be taking his name as his own daughter. Ever since the day she was born, she had been nothing more than one of the many lab rats, raised in total secrecy. Every single day was a living, breathing hell under the constant supervision of truly vicious demons who forced them to undergo incredibly painful experiments. All she could do was grit her teeth and endure, hoping for better days to come. In the end, all of the other children in the secret compound died off one by one, leaving her as the one and only survivor of the brutal experiments. At that time, she believed it was only a matter of time before she would follow them all to an early grave. But her destiny was forever altered when Hell claimed her as his own daughter. Her small heart swelled with an incredible sense of honor and joy, eager to finally serve her new Lord Father. That was also the day that she was given the name Shrills Khaldun, and along with her new name came a sacred mission. She would act as a spy and infiltrate the forces of heaven to siphon off information. If it was for her father, the great Demon King, she would gladly and willingly do absolutely anything. And so, her infiltration began by posing as an injured and innocent young child who had wandered too close to Arslan. The mages believed she had been attacked by demons, and they urgently took her in to provide medical treatment. From that point on, her life as the Demon King's personal spy had officially begun. Eventually, she worked her way up the ranks to Talua as a powerful mage from Arslan. Her path upwards was incredibly difficult, but she managed to power through every single obstacle that stood in her way. Finally, she rose to the rank of qualifying for the strongest squad in existence, the legendary Talcan Elite Force. 15 long years after she had infiltrated human society, she was able to finally meet her beloved father once again. This time, it was on the bloody field of battle. All she wanted to do in that moment was to run and embrace him, but she could not. She knew that she had to endure and wait for everyone, except for General Killman, to finally perish. Swirls had been stationed at the army's flank, and her secret mission was to slowly weed out the members of the Talcan squad with her powerful magic. That way, she could provide support for her father until General Killman was 6 feet under. Once the Talcan squad was completely wiped out, she could finally consider her mission a success and return to the castle with her loving father. She wanted nothing more than to begin a brand new life by her father's side, and to finally take on her real name, Shrills Khaldun. However, the brutal battle did not unfold in the way she had ever imagined. The general and the great Demon King praised one another for exceeding all expectations. As the true apex predator, Hell was quite offended that he was being complimented by a mere worthless human. Finally, General Killman unleashed his final ace in the hole, a devastating final attack containing everything he possessed. The legendary Spear of Heaven's Martyrs. Mirroring his desperate efforts, the Demon King summoned the unholy flames of hell. Magnalexia. The clash of these two ultimate techniques burned hot and bright. Shrills felt a terrible sense of premonition. In that single instant, she clearly heard her father's voice for the very first time in a decade and a half. He called out to her, his daughter, by her true name. In her final moments, Hell Khaldun gave her one last, final order: to serve the next Demon King just as she had served him, to protect the royal bloodline until her very last breath. As tears of immense sorrow poured down her face, the cataclysmic clash of heaven and hell swallowed everything in its path. When a nuclear-level blast finally subsided, the decapitated head of the great Demon King lay lifeless on the ground, staring at her father's cold, lifeless remains. Shrills could no longer hold back her powerful emotions. After having witnessed the Demon King's tragic demise, backup forces arrived to clean up the bloody mess, and she had no other choice but to continue her ruse and return to Talua, while she was deeply mourning the loss of the most important person in her entire life. People from all over the entire continent were joyously celebrating to their heart's content. For the very first time in millennia, the humans had finally scored a major victory. From that moment forward, Shrills decided that she would retire from service and move to Arzul, a place that she now considers to be her second home. She wanted to start completely fresh, a clean slate. Arslan would now serve as her home base, while she plotted to avenge her beloved father's death. Her plan begins by wiping the entire country of magic off the map. Rin was deeply conflicted, while Kella was feeling a pit forming in his stomach. He had thought that he had finally escaped his insane, murderous siblings, but he had been dead wrong. Even though they are not technically blood-related, another sibling just means another massive headache for him, snapping him out of his deep thoughts. Shrills claimed that she would not force Kella and Rin to cooperate with her simply because they are fellow demons, but she is absolutely certain that Arslan poses a core threat to all of demonkind. The longer that they allow this center of magic to prosper, the bigger of a problem it will become, and the sooner her dear brother, the last hope of all demonkind, Kella Khaldun, will inevitably die. Her words actually make a lot of sense. Even back in the game, Chiyu recalls just how important the role of mages is in large-scale wars. If they were to simply let Arslan be, they will just continue to sharpen their arcane arts to take his head. Speaking of mages, the first responders were now completely distraught. They are worried that the massive explosion will attract more attention, and that someone else might swoop in and take credit for their discovery. So, for one final decisive assault, they pooled all of their remaining mana together for a single kill shot. Come to think of it, these corrupt and crooked mages must believe that the two youngsters standing behind Shrills are just normal humans. Yet they still attacked without even thinking about the possible collateral damage. Completely pissed off, Kella dispelled his magical disguise, proudly showing off his demonic horns and fangs. He then claimed that he would be dishing out some so-called self-defense. Upon sensing the hint of pure, raw energy that he was now emitting, Shrill's eyes went wide with a mixture of shock and instant recognition. There could be no doubt about it. She could feel her own father's immense power boiling inside this young man. On this fateful night, the two siblings waged an endless, brutal battle against the center of magic in the entire human world. To Rin's untrained eyes, it probably looked more like a one-sided massacre. Sri Lanka had considered Arsenal to be her second home, so she knew its entire layout like the back of her own hand. She began her campaign of absolute destruction by mowing down and burning the main facilities of the corrupt government, which was followed by the Great Magic Academy. Kella utilized the Demon King's vast mana reserves that he had inherited to keep pace with his sister's terrifying efficiency. Together, they subjugated all of those in power, who were drunk on the excitement of the recent festivities. Without so much as batting an eye, he clawed through their flesh like bags of meat. With their impeccable teamwork, the two siblings were able to bring the entire nation of magic, Arsal, down to its knees in submission. The entire place, propped up by the arcane, burned deep into the night. The foul stench of burning human flesh wafted through the night air. Some of the few surviving mages cursed the demons for having destroyed their beloved home. In truth, Shreels could have said the very same thing to these pathetic people. They were simply retaliating for what these humans did to the demon realm. And Arsenal is just the beginning of their crusade. Shreels has already set her sights on the legendary Talkin squad, and the great empire of Talua is next on her list. She is completely determined to put an end to everything. Knowing the sheer scale of such a mission, it seems nearly impossible, now that they're done decimating Arsal. Kella excused himself and began to walk away from his newfound sister. But before he could actually leave, she confided that she recognized the name that he had been using, which was tied to his one true identity. Since she is already aware, there is no longer any point in hiding it. When he finally admitted the truth to her, Shrills was visibly taken aback. Truthfully, she had just been throwing out an educated guess. She was not 100% certain. Since that is the case, Shrills explained that she's not actually the Demon King's daughter in the traditional sense. She is more like a mutant created from his blood aura. And because of that fact, she wholeheartedly acknowledges Kella's true royal bloodline. She might not look like it due to certain specific features, but Shrills was actually created long after Kella was born, which technically makes him her older brother. Hearing her say that out loud absolutely petrified the young lord. Assuming that he also desires revenge for their fallen father, she formally invites him to assist her in this sacred mission. She has no idea that revenge is the furthest thing from his mind. Right now, in fact, he had even run away from his own home. Upon sensing some clear hesitation on her brother's face, the crazed sister had to sternly remind Kella that he was the one and only remaining bloodline of the Great King, their father's only remaining biological child. Terrified that this crazy redhead might actually turn on them, Rin whispered to her master to just go along with it and accept her invitation. At this point in time, Kella also feels as if he has no other choice but to play along. Calming down upon hearing his final decision, Shrill smiled and began to walk towards their next destination. While he's playing along, Kella intends to milk his new mutant sister dry for all of the powerful magic of Arsenal that she has mastered. And revenge is the absolute best excuse to stall for more time, while also gaining a powerful and dangerous new ally. Unbeknownst to them all, a single mage survived the devastating attack, and he is heading straight to Talua to report everything that has happened. And so, the capital city received the urgent and dire message from the surviving mage. The urgent news quickly reached the ears of Talua's greedy and avaricious ruler. The intel about how Commander Shrills is an undercover demon, and the complete destruction of Arslan with the help of Prince Kelakaldun greatly unsettled the human king. Knowing that they had missed the Demon King's own progeny in Arslan was bad enough, but the prince joining forces with a traitorous but incredibly powerful commander made the situation even worse. If the news of this shocking development were to get out, the king is far more worried about being turned into a public laughingstock than all of the lives and priceless infrastructure that were lost. Holding a sharp steak knife in his hand, the king decreed a massive manhunt to eliminate Kelakaldun and Shrills before the crown could be utterly humiliated. His trusted advisor, Hayden, swore upon his own name that he would get it done. Displayed proudly in the king's throne room is the Demon King's lifeless, severed head, a grotesque show of dominance. Even in his death, hell, Khaldun continues to be a sharp thorn in Talua's collective throat. Equipped with a deep-seated hatred for all demons, Hayden made a deeply personal vow to extinguish every last bit of demon blood remaining in the entire world. The loyal advisor enlisted the help of someone called General Killian and his elite squad to deal with this incredibly urgent mission. If you were to ask anyone in the entire kingdom who the best knight in existence is, you would get one unanimous answer: Killian. Perhaps he is the only one truly capable of handling a mission of such great urgency and immense difficulty in the middle of a remote mountainous region. A man who is riddled with countless battle scars felt an immense rage bubbling up inside him upon receiving the news that his brother, Kilman, had died in glorious battle. According to the official reports, Kilman had sacrificed himself in an act of mutually assured destruction against the legendary Demon King. Killian doesn't care about the minor details. At the end of the day, his brother still died at the hands of a demon. The kingdom's messenger used this information as a way to persuade the knight to hunt down the fugitive Kella Khaldun, all in the name of the great nation of Talua. Killian couldn't care less about the kingdom, since his beloved brother was slain by a demon. He will simply kill every single demon that still exists in this world, starting with the Demon King's own bloodline. Killian's ice-cold declaration signals the beginning of the hunt for Kella Khaldun. The scene then shifts back to the son of the Demon King, who is in absolute shock at the hefty meat skewer that has been placed before him. Apparently, his new mommy, Shreels, has quite the ravenous appetite for food. Even Kella's loyal servant is in complete shock that she can consume so much food without gaining a single pound. Most girls would kill to have that kind of amazing body. The girl even has her own unique theory: to eat incredibly fast and then defecate even faster without gaining any weight, as if she has just been enlightened by the wisdom of the great wizards. Rin begins to devour the meat. Meanwhile, our boy is over here, trying to assess Shreel's true allegiance to his cause. He is glad that, at the very least, she isn't like his other siblings, who are desperately trying to take his life at every single encounter. Furthermore, he was deeply worried that she might harbor some kind of deep-seated hatred towards him for being the one of the main, true bloodline, instead of her. Just to confirm the nature of their relationship, he bluntly asked Shrills if she hates him for some reason. After all, he is the biological child, and she is not. To that, Shrills is clearly offended in her pointed response, roaring that she does, in fact, desire to kill him when considering that fact alone. This is, of course, typical demon behavior. However, because he shares the very same blood as their beloved father, she just cannot bring herself to truly despise him. Also, since he does possess their father's blood, right now, her one and only goal in life is to protect him no matter what may happen. So, very different from the other siblings he had as part of his family, this powerful woman actually wanted to protect him. She promises to stake her very own life on the line, just to make absolutely sure that nothing bad ever happens to our boy. Now, that is the very definition of true, unwavering loyalty. Her words are so incredibly considerate that they cause our boy to swoon in an instant. Rin is over here, completely shocked to see Kella actually blushing right before her eyes. Her future boyfriend is about to be completely stolen away from her, so she quickly offers him up her own piece of meat. And no, I do not mean it in that particular way, but I know that the comment section is getting ready to comment on that. Rin then displays her own form of loyalty by vowing to protect him until the day that she dies. But instead of being all flustered by her words, our bro is a bit put off and even a little bit worried. Apart from all that, right at this moment, the group strongly suspects that the arsenal situation will soon reach the ears of every single major country in the world. And that means that tons of demon hunters will soon be on their way to annihilate this new threat. This means that staying here would be a death sentence for all of them. That is why the red-haired mage wants them to immediately relocate to a much safer location. But Kella argues to the contrary, countering that it's an excellent place to at least sleep soundly at night. After all, with only a small hint of effort, they could easily turn this entire place into an impenetrable secret fortress where they can hold their ground against any attacker. And so, with the invaluable help of Shrills, he got right to work. Their very first initiative was to alter the surrounding terrain so that they could begin to create their new secret fortress. Next up, during their designated rest period, he reviewed some of the important things he had learned from their recent battles, recalling how he had expended massive amounts of his mana. The now meditative Kella understands that he must rest as much as he possibly can after using up so much of his energy. The very same went for his father, who also required plentiful rest periods after every single battle. Now as for Shrills, she has expended even more of her mana than he has, which is precisely why her rest periods are even longer than his own. In the end, they were both able to fully recover over time and successfully protected themselves, with the invaluable help of the brand new secret fortress that had been crafted. In the very next scene, we turn our attention to the perspectives of our enemies. The Talkin's second squad is known as the Talkin of White, and this elite squad boasts the most powerful and legendary knight on the continent. Killian, the king, is absolutely delighted to see his finest warriors assembled together to slay the remaining pathetic demons. He is excited just to have the honor of witnessing their arrival. This squad is the single strongest squad that has ever existed, but Killian himself appears to be completely indifferent, and in his short but intense training period, he has grown even more powerful than he was last time. His close friend believes that. The late General Killman would have been incredibly happy with Killian's recent progress if he were somehow still alive to see it. Deed is then immediately smacked for speaking about such a delicate matter so casually. Audrey appears to be the very same as she has always been, another one of Killian's trusted subordinates. Questions if they should really be following the king's direct orders. After all, their immense anger cannot possibly be satiated, even after the successful killing of Kella Kaldin. As the Demon King's only son, Killian apologizes to Kalka, stating that he has something that he needs to show to Curdley. First, inside the palace, Killian comes face to face with the grotesque beheaded trophy, piece of the great heavens kingdom. Even after the Demon King's eventual death, Killian is just as infuriated by the tragic loss of his beloved brother. The rest of his loyal teammates are observing in their own unique ways, while Curdley confirms to their powerful team captain that their magical tracking spell will indeed work. With just the headpiece alone, the great white mage prepares her powerful spell, reasoning that the lingering bloodstains should be more than enough for her to track down the exact location of the bloodlock. Killian then coldly tells the Demon King's severed headpiece that he is going to personally enjoy slaughtering the rest of his pathetic kind, and he is hoping that Hel Khaldun gets to witness all of it. The very next morning, Shrills is being very heavy-handed with her orders. She wants them to get started immediately because she expects the imminent arrival of the strongest squad of Talon. Not even Rin has any knowledge of them. The red-haired mage explains that back in Talua, no one truly even believed that the first squad would be capable of taking down the Demon King. All on their own, they were basically going in as the experimental group, to be used as nothing more than a test. The real squad, that is supposed to be comprised of only the best warriors, second to none, and basically unstoppable demon-killing machines, is the legendary Squad of White. The Talkin of White is led by the great Killian, the younger brother of the late and revered general. The really troublesome part of all this is that Killman was actually considered the lesser of the two siblings, a bitter truth that Shrills is reluctant to even acknowledge. The Talkin of White operates on an entirely different level than Killman's former squad. Their power is so immense, it defies all rational comparison, a truly terrifying thought. Kella is visibly concerned, while Rin can't hide her absolute nervousness. She can't possibly imagine how they could ever stand against Talua. To this, Shrills reveals a critical weakness. The Talkin of White was forged in total isolation, which means it will take them precious time to mobilize and gather their full strength. And until that fateful day arrives, they must seize the initiative against Talua and end this war swiftly. However, this will be no simple task. Talua is a sprawling empire, far larger than Arsenal, so even Kella understands with chilling clarity that mere luck will not decide the outcome of this coming war. And if luck is no longer part of the equation, then he must forge his own destiny. He argues that with his bounty already circulating across the continent, it's entirely possible the Talkin of White have already begun to assemble. None of them realize it, but he is dead on in this assessment, just as we witnessed in the previous scene. Kella then explains that it would be suicidal for the three of them to attack Talua head-on. For the time being, their absolute priority must be to amass an army, to build their own fortress and retaliate from a position of strength. To Rin, this is a fascinating proposition. Kella continues his strategic breakdown, stating that an entire army will be more than a match for a single squad, even if it is the most formidable squad on the entire continent. Furthermore, their new base of operations will not fall, even in the worst-case scenario of a full-scale invasion from Talyua. Kella intends to construct the most powerful, impenetrable dungeon ever conceived. His plan completely stuns Shrills and amazes Rin. The fact is, there is no strategic value in engaging in battles. They're too unpredictable for them to guarantee victory, because if they were to take such a reckless approach, the final result would be the same tragic fate that befell their father. Therefore, the only correct course of action in this situation is to build the ultimate dungeon, to counter the Talcan of White, and use that as a staging ground to wage war against Talyua. It is a truly brilliant strategy, one that even the mighty Shrills seems to deeply appreciate, and she now holds a newfound respect for his brilliant, unorthodox mind. In the meantime, our boy is just relieved he was able to formulate such a coherent plan in the spur of the moment. Shrills is invigorated by this new direction, eager to build their forces, especially since she possesses the necessary contacts to make it happen. Rin and Shrills are strangely ecstatic about the prospect of war, which should be the exact opposite of how they ought to be reacting. But Kella is rather taken aback that both of the girls are so enthusiastic about his idea. For the time being, this is the absolute best way for them to stall for more time. He intends to finally manifest his own perfect world, a domain where no one can ever interfere with his grand designs again. The ultimate map that he could never forge in his previous life will finally become a reality in this new world, all to build the life he has always desired. Turning his attention to the red-haired mage, he asks Shrills if she knows of any trustworthy demons they can recruit. Fortunately for them, she has plenty of them. As part of her network, Kella explains that they will require someone who possesses vast knowledge concerning the geographical layout of the land. Understanding his request, Shrills realizes that such a person does indeed exist, and so their next journey is to seek out this mysterious individual. During their travels, Kella was instructed in Arsal's magic by Shrills, and he learned a great deal more about this new world. However, the magic itself seemed incredibly complex, and it wasn't something he could master in such a short period of time. Luckily, thanks to the potent effects of the Demon King's royal blood, his adaptive capabilities were greatly enhanced, and he was able to replicate Shrill's spells much faster than normal. Kella is thrilled that he is learning at such an accelerated rate, and with every single new improvement he makes, he feels that he is getting ever closer to achieving his ultimate goals. 4 days flew by in what felt like an instant, and their long journey was finally nearing its destination. Rin is completely shocked that a demon would live in such a desolate location, but Shrills explains that this place was not always such a wasteland. It was only because of the Talcan squad that it was reduced to such a pitiful and barren state. Sensing the sudden arrival of an immense power, Shrills orders them both to remain perfectly still, no matter what was about to happen. Right before their very eyes, a formidable demon makes a cataclysmic land. Believing that the Talcan squad has returned to desecrate his lands once more, he lunges forward, thrusting a massive spear directly at Shrills' heart. But she's an absolute beast. She doesn't even flinch and simply takes the full blow like a true champion. She understands that most of the other demons have not yet heard of her existence, while Rin is terrified, wondering why the mage is allowing herself to be stabbed without revealing the truth about her own identity. Kella commands his loyal servant to remain completely silent, stating that they should permit them to have this moment to themselves. The demon and his men then question why Shrills is not even fighting back, believing that she views them as inferior and not even worth her time. Apologizing for all of the terrible things that have occurred on behalf of Talcan, Shrills willingly accepts the full brunt of their righteous wrath, if it will help them to assuage their anger. Hands down, she's my favorite character in this entire story. The demon is completely shocked to witness a human, enacting the very same symbolic pose of their own kind. Shrills then, at last, confesses the whole truth, remarking that she, too, is a fellow demon, and that she sincerely apologizes for her past actions. This revelation shocks the entire group even more, because they vividly remember her arriving with the dreaded Talcan squad. The last time, Kella finally breaks his long silence, proclaiming that he is the final surviving child of the great Demon King, Hel Kaldun, and with his royal authority, He confirms the undeniable weight of her powerful words. His sheer, overwhelming magical energy alone is more than enough to confirm to them that he is the Demon King's son. They immediately drop to their knees to pay him the proper respect he so rightly deserves, enacting the very same sacred pose of their kind. The demons fully pledge their unwavering support to the successor of their fallen king, and so far, their mission to assemble a small army is turning out perfectly. Shrills is incredibly happy that even the others are respecting him as the one and only rightful heir to the demonic throne. Meanwhile, Kella is starting to truly believe that he might just end up commanding an actual army of his very own. In this new life, the arrival of the great Demon King's son is celebrated with great fanfare as the powerful earth demons cheer their unwavering support for him. The elders of the tribe are overjoyed to see him here and are even prepared to accept any and all orders from him. Kella looks around, observing the unique architectural magic that has been used. The structures are vastly different from the ones used back at the castle and at Arsal, but the truly impressive part is that this city does not have any magic at all imbued within its structures. This was all constructed with nothing more than raw materials, and the geographical placement of the city is also strategically excellent for their upcoming missions. He was not expecting such a massive city to be so well hidden deep underground. The earth demons, after all, rarely ever came up to the surface. He turns to the powerful mage, agreeing with her previous thoughts. They absolutely need the help of these powerful earth demons. Shrills also suggests recruiting the perfect warrior to become a valuable part of their new army. Kella is deeply intrigued by her words, while Srael continues that the Talcan squad discovered this city on their way to the Demon King's castle. In the very moment that they discovered it, Kilman began to unleash hell upon it, proclaiming that he would not permit the existence of even a single solitary demon. And so, he began to slaughter the demons with ruthless abandon, using the soldiers of Talua who were under his direct command. The lush forest that once rested on top of this underground city was incinerated for all time. This assault cornered the earth demons to the very brink of near extinction. But then, something truly remarkable happened. A single, lone warrior came to the front lines, vowing to be the voice of true justice. He argued that the humans were being ruthless for killing innocent little children, who did not even know how to properly fight back. This incredibly prideful warrior vowed that not a single one of Kilman's men would pass him, and lay a hand on the defenseless children. Completely shocked to see a demon risking his own life to protect these children, Kilman found a deep respect for him and asked for the great warrior's name. Douglas roared loudly as the son of the proud earth demons. General Kilman almost pitted Douglas for not having been born human. But to the demons' complete and utter shock, General Kilman halted the massacre and told his squad to immediately cease their mission and to prioritize advancing on to the Demon King's castle instead. Douglas could not even begin to believe it, while Shrills departed from the scene, saying that a single demon's bravery was enough to save their entire tribe. Douglas is truly such a likable character. Anyway, that is how the earth demons managed to live to see another day. Shrills recalls the legendary story of how he stood his ground. The tale is impressive enough to captivate Rin, who immediately takes a strong liking to this brave man. Meanwhile, Kella is off to the side, gathering his own thoughts. He believes that Douglas would be an excellent addition to his new army. While enjoying a great feast, he requests to meet Douglas immediately. Unfortunately, Douglas is well known for his incredible stubbornness, and even the current leader of the Earth Demons believes they should choose some other warrior to recruit in his place. However, Kella is completely firm in his stance and demands to meet with Douglas at once. The scene then cuts to their fateful encounter, and just as the tribal leader had warned them, Douglas stubbornly refuses to follow the orders of the son of the Demon King. He argues that he is under no obligation to obey the new successor, regardless of his royal rank. Kella then entertains the possibility of him forcing Douglas's participation. To this, the prideful warrior states that he would gladly give up his own life, fighting to the death against that very decision. Kella cannot begin to understand his decision to remain stationed in this city. The man explains that he has spent his entire life in this very place, and that is why he has a sacred duty to protect his cherished motherland. Kella finally begins to understand what they meant when they had called him an incredibly stubborn man. Douglas apologizes for this particular quality of his. It is an unfortunate thing, really, And this entire interaction reminds Chi-Woo of the time he had tried to recruit an orc back in the game. He thinks that there is no point in trying to force this situation. After all, the man is more than willing to die for his own cause. Kella then steps outside, remarking how the architecture of this city is even more impressive than he had first imagined. Right now, he is desperate to find someone who knows the earth demons from the inside and out to assist him. Meanwhile, Rin and Shrills are over here getting drunk like a couple of clowns and not helping out at all. Kella is frustrated that they are not even doing their assigned jobs. Fast forward to this man also getting completely and utterly drunk, having now tasted the finest beer imaginable. All three of them are basically operating on a single shared brain cell at the table. While the Earth Demons are overjoyed to see their new leaders having so much fun, they are also then brought to their assigned resting chambers. Shortly afterwards, Kella resumes his much-needed rest, not knowing that a group of demons has come to his room to secretly assassinate him in his sleep. With a massive axe in his hand, the reveal is truly shocking, as Douglas is about to kill the Demon King's own successor for his perceived cowardice. He unloads the axe and connects the brutal hit. Does this seem like the end of our beloved boy? You thought wrong. Douglas is completely stunned that his target was able to dodge, even in such an incredibly vulnerable position. Kella misses the axe by a mere inch and remarks that he is finally certain of how this entire situation is truly unfolding now. He then pounces out of his bed, while the rest of the rebels attempt to end his life for being a so-called coward. Then, we get a much clearer view of Kella's thoughts when he had first met Douglas. He wondered why the proud warrior was making separate, strange weapons that were not supposed to be a part of the local smithy, and the peculiar restraints that he had seen. They just looked far too small to fit an average orc as he was walking around the city. He could also tell that multiple people were secretly tailing him. After that, he became even more wary of his immediate surroundings, and he quickly realized that there was also a hidden wall with a magical barrier coated deep inside. This magical barrier was so incredibly subtle that if he hadn't inherited the immense power of the Demon King's own mana, he would not have been able to tell that it was coated with powerful magic. Then, he also recalled how in Shrill's version of the heroic story, Douglas had stood his ground, valiantly protecting the children of the Dark Elves. However, upon a much closer inspection of the city, he could not locate a single Dark Elf anywhere around. And that is how all the pieces of the puzzle began falling into place inside his head. And now, Kella finally makes his decisive advance, sharply cutting past all of his enemies in a single, fluid motion, and defeating them all with Douglas now helpless on the ground. He confirms to the pathetic warrior that Douglas never once stated to the general that he wished to protect the innocent Dark Elves. Instead, Douglas had only mentioned that he was not going to hand them over. This means the so-called brave and prideful warrior never actually cared about protecting the children in the first place. He simply did not want them to be taken away from him. Kella's cold and logical assessment of reality utterly terrifies the scumbag, who is now at a complete loss for words. Kella then entertains a simple question. Should they finally undo the magical barrier that he had so meticulously placed? In the next scene, the son of the Demon King has revealed Douglas as a filthy traitor. The very man who they had revered as a great and noble warrior turned out to be nothing more than a lying, pathetic clown. Also, Kella is now convinced that every single Earth Demon was also a part of this plan. This means that they were all using Douglas to assassinate him in secret, as even the filthy tribal leader is in complete shock that Douglas had somehow failed to execute the important mission. Kella is now furious, demanding that the Earth Demons stand down. Otherwise, he will be forced to slaughter their precious warrior. The Earth Demons finally unveil their true, treacherous nature, calling Kella a pathetic coward, even though they were worshipping him just a short while ago. Facing the very same magical wall that he had sensed from earlier, Kella orders his new hostage to open the door immediately, since he has no other options left but to comply. Douglas unlocks the great door, revealing the dark and terrible reality. The elves that he had been searching for, and all of their children, sat there, terrified and enslaved. Kella is completely mortified to find them all starved, and in an even worse condition than he had ever envisioned. Shrills and Rin also come around, checking on his health after confirming his wild suspicions. They are even more shocked to see the horrific fate of the Dark Elves. Our boy then orders the powerful mage to take one Dark Elf from the group and to transfer all of their memories directly to him, using the memory transfer magic. I just love this particular approach. So she gets right to work, telling him that the memories are going to be less vivid, but still perfectly doable. Kella awaits the casting of her spell. She casts the powerful spell on each of her hands, and the delicate process of memory transfer begins to initiate. At long last, these memories come from the perspective of a male Dark Elf, who refers to this terrible place as a living, breathing hell. And yes, just a quick reminder. It is a guy, but I bet that his appearance threw you all off. His own mother was forced into bearing children, and every single female Dark Elf had met the very same terrible fate of the young children that were eventually born. They were quickly handpicked by the human nobles who took them away. The young, innocent elves were then sold for tons and tons of money, profiting the treacherous earth demons with their disgusting business. Sometimes, the adult elves who were captured from the outside world would tell them all about how the outside world was filled with beauty. There was a beautiful, endless horizon and waves of clear, blue oceans, food that was absolutely delicious, and there was endless natural beauty. But that was only the case for the free outside world. You see, for the children who were born here, they only ever knew what it was like to be completely enslaved. The Dark Elves were being bred for only one single, horrible purpose, and their lifelong dream was to see their own children finally be free. That way, at the very least, the later generations would not meet the same terrible fate as them, having now experienced the full, painful weight of the woman's tragic memories. Kella is brought to a state of godlike, incandescent rage. He curses the scumbag race of the treacherous earth demons, who had conducted such a horrifying business in this underground city. His anger is so completely uncontained that our boy chucks a monstrous, devastating hook right against Douglas's face. But I doubt that the pain is even a single fraction of the pain that the Dark Elves have endured. The warrior is sent flying back into a nearby tree. Shrills has the exact same furious reaction as Kella. Meanwhile, the bastard calmly confirms that they were smuggling the Dark Elves. From the very beginning, after all, they were a rare and exotic breed that were in high demand by the human nobles, known to be deeply loved by nature. The Dark Elves helped them to live in various locations that brought them both peace and a sense of safety. But this bastard thinks that just makes them a viable target and a valid reason to become nothing more than breeding livestock. Hearing those truly pathetic words, Shrills is now in a mood to end this pathetic demon's life. Douglas roars that they must do anything for their own survival. With the recent death of the great demon king, so they have to resort to this disgusting business in order to survive. But Kella, oh boy, he is completely pissed off. He remembers how miserable his original life had been, the endless struggles he had endured from his own family. But the pain and suffering that these innocent children have experienced is far greater than the pathetic life that he had to endure. He refused to simply stand by and do nothing in a time like this, especially when such unbelievable horrors are taking place right before his eyes, declaring to both Shrills and Rin, he believes that it is now time for their group to finally complete Kilman's job. Now, that is a bone-chilling order. But even the red-haired mage agrees completely with this new approach, believing that these guys were nothing but traitorous monsters from the very start, who had betrayed their own fellow race. Kella is done messing around, and he fully intends to annihilate every single earth demon that there is. Douglas, on the other hand, seeks the immediate help of all of his comrades, seeing as though their numbers are far higher than the three of them. The battle, or should I say, the great massacre of the earth demons, begins, with Rin heroically blocking all of their incoming attacks, Shrills casting her great and terrible magic, while roaring about their betrayal against the great demon king's own flesh and blood. The earth demons insult our boy for being a pathetic coward, who should not be used as a worthy leader for their esteemed kind. But Rin, his most loyal and devoted servant, deems this as nothing but utter nonsense, as Kella is destined to become the very next demon king, even with their vocal disapproval. Speaking of our boy, he's out here throwing hands like a true man, understanding that this was no longer a simple game, but a part of his very life. He knew that he needed to change something with his incredible powers, delivering a powerful, devastating kick to Douglas's pathetic face. He refuses to back down for a single moment. Meanwhile, the Dark Elves are completely surprised. They have never once had someone fighting so valiantly for their sakes. The one from before realizes that they must help these people to win this decisive battle. Even though the others try to stop Wood from getting involved, he believes that this is their one and only opportunity to escape from this miserable life of endless torture. They must act now. The word torture rings loudly in their minds. The painful memories of being brutally and endlessly abused triggers a deeply traumatic response from within Wood. Kella notices this, and he turns his attention back to Douglas, questioning if he can hear the desperate cries of pain that he doled out on the innocent. He will make absolutely certain that the earth demons suffer the very same wrath. Seeing as the situation has now turned to his great disadvantage, Douglas decides to take some truly severe measures, and he swallows some strange kind of berry. It's actually a legendary magic earth, and he recommends that the other earth demons each swallow their own. This fight is now one for their very survival, so they quickly follow Douglas's desperate instructions. Rin is completely shocked. She had only ever read about the mythical earth or in ancient myths and stories. Meanwhile, the son of the Demon King has absolutely no idea what it does. The powerful mage reveals that upon the consumption of an earth, the demon's lifespan is severely and drastically shortened, but their physical strength is amplified by dozens of times. Now, this is truly a bad situation for our heroes. The earth demons begin to transform at an incredibly alarming rate, their bodies morphing into killing machines. The son of the Demon King, Douglas, now resembles a mindless, hulking monster as he roars out a powerful declaration. Kella displays some clear and visible concern, noticing how their demonic energy was indeed massively amplified. In return, he can't even make full use of his powers of the Demon King. Not in the current state that he's in, at least. Douglas then lashes out in a desperate effort to unload a monstrous punch right against our boy. Kella comprehends the gravity of this dire situation, and at this rate, he fears that the coming attack will leave him brutally and grievously injured. But to his great fortune, a bunch of wooden vines suddenly erect from the ground, stopping the earth demon's devastating attack and strangling him in place. The conjurer of this powerful attack isn't Shrills, but a dark elf who refuses to be tortured ever again, vowing to never again meet the same terrible fate. Wood's incredible courage strikes fear into the hearts of her own allies, who believe that the brave elf has now endangered her own life. Douglas is absolutely furious, and he ominously makes a promise to torture the elf until her eventual death. But that will not be happening anytime soon, not on Kella's watch, who declares that he will never again allow a dark elf to be tortured. His piercing attack has now punctured the demon's body completely. Then, remembering Wood's unique name, Kella confesses that he has found a particular liking to the Dark Elf. Douglas felt a sharp sting of utter betrayal, completely oblivious to his own horrifying and monstrous actions. He thought that he had done the Dark Elf a great favor by raising him, but now he is so completely enraged that he wants to kill them all. Kella was not expecting this guy to unlock even greater levels of power at the expense of his own immense anger. His body became even bigger as he lashed a powerful punch and smacked our boy with the full, incredible weight of its force. The powerful attack sent him crashing hard into a nearby wall, as Kella found himself completely stunned, locked at how powerful the earth magic stone could force a demon to actually become. But Douglas is not yet finished. He targets Wood next, vowing to kill the Dark Elf for good this time. The monstrous creature grabs him tightly by the neck, crunches down, and forces the poor elf to experience a world of pain. Even Kella is terrified at the current state of Douglas, who is now even more focused on killing the helpless Wood than assassinating the son of the Demon King, as was his original target. The dark elf moans in pure agony, while Kella senses the critical nature of the situation. In a desperate need to form a long-ranged attack with his powers, he searches dark and deep for something that can help him save the elf's life. All of a sudden, he enters a spiritual state in an endless black void. And in this void, a dark, mysterious figure laughs mockingly at him as he reminds the boy that this is supposed to be his very own consciousness. Kella demands to know the dark figure's true identity, who claims that he should be interested in asking a better question, perhaps a question on how he should be saving his friend's life. Even though time has slowed down considerably within his own consciousness, they still need to act, and act quickly. Recalling Wood's desperate condition, Kella begs for a way out of this, a way to save the dark elf. The dark being that resides inside his mind declares that the boy is not yet ready to handle the full, awesome scale of his father's powers. Be that as it may, eventually, his body and his mind will cooperate in perfect unison with one another to fully handle the awesome powers of the Demon King. Kella gets straight to the point. He does not want to hear any long, drawn-out explanations when there is a precious life to be saved on the line. The dark figure then reveals that there is one special ability he could use. But before leaving, the dark figure drops an absolute bombshell. He reveals Kella's real name from his original life and world as Kong Chi-woo. Whatever this mysterious thing is, it seems to be fully aware of our boy's tragic past life. Before Kella is able to fully comprehend the gravity of this situation, he exits the dark void and focuses on the weapon spiritualizing in his hand. It is his own father's legendary fire arrow, which is just the thing that he needs to fire a devastating long-range shot, roaring at Wood to protect his own body. Kella unleashes his ferocious and deadly projectile. Douglas is completely starstruck at the massive beam of light coming his way, while the dark elf uses this brief chance to expend all his remaining magic into casting a powerful wooden shield. Kella proclaims the end of Douglas's terrorizing and horrific acts as the powerful projectile completely disintegrates the Earth Demon. The pain that is inflicted is so utterly agonizing that the Earth Demon is crying out in desperation to be saved. Thankfully, Kella managed to save the elf in time with a direct hit. Douglas incinerates, and he is inevitably devoured by the blue flames. Meanwhile, Kella questions the true identity of the mystical figure he had met within his own consciousness. Anyway, apart from the now-dead Douglas, they still have plenty of other Earth demons left to deal with, starting off with the ones that are currently targeting Rin and Shrills. Unfortunately, the powerful mage cannot use the best of her magic because of the limited space, but Kella is now here for their rescue, as by harnessing his own father's incredible powers, he launches multiple deadly arrows from a great distance. Each one of them strikes down the remaining Earth demons in successive fashion. The powerful mage is really impressed, seeing his magical powers finally take form and become even stronger. Now, he has acquired a brand new technique to add to his set of powerful abilities, a power that he is truly and incredibly proud of. In the very next scene, we get to see the thrilling conclusion of the battle. The Earth demons are completely done for. Shriels did not expect the powerful gemstones to be even more potent than the ancient rumors. While Rin is completely surprised to learn that they actually eat away at the demon's lifespan in exchange for power. There's still a great mystery, so they're going to be used for future in-depth investigation. As for the remaining terrified dark elves, Kella officially declares them to be freed from their heavy shackles. He doesn't want them to do anything at all, but live their lives in complete freedom. From this day forward, hearing the word freedom comes across as both oblivious and unreal. To the elves who are bound by heavy chains their entire miserable lives, Kella grants them his royal permission to leave the city and find their long-lost freedom. At long last, their dream of acquiring true freedom for their children has finally been granted to them. Paying their respects to Kella and his powerful allies, the elves bowed down in their unwavering support. Unfortunately, they were unable to make use of the Earth demons as part of their main battle force. Shrills is deeply disappointed to find out that she and Killman were basically manipulated by these traitorous, pathetic clowns. Marine remarks that there's nothing at all that they can do in this instance, but to accept this harsh reality. As for Kella, he is interested specifically in the brave elf Wood, as he goes on to ask if the dark elf was captured from the dangerous outside world. The dark elf confirms that this is indeed a fact. So, Kella goes on to assume that Wood does not have any family left to live with. That sad fact, too, is confirmed by the dark elf with a sorrowful and quiet yes. Our boy then invites him to join their growing group, offering him a chance to become their trusted guide to help navigate the terrain. Demon, and he possesses no special talent for navigation, with a spirit burdened by sorrow. He declares he would be of no real use to their noble cause. But Kella refutes this, reminding him that as a dark elf, he is cherished by nature itself and has impressed the Demon King's son by displaying unwavering courage in the face of annihilation. Those two facts alone are more than enough to earn their complete trust. And so, Kella extends his hand in alliance once more. Utterly stunned by these words of acceptance, Wood is at a complete loss for a response. For his entire life, his only companion has been misery. He never even knew the faces of his mother or father. The dark elf was abandoned as a child, only to be captured, forced to endure a life of absolute agony. This brutal, nightmarish reality was the only world he had ever known. As the earth demons stole every last bit of his hope, he truly believed there was no escape from this existence. And now, to suddenly be offered true freedom, the pitiful dark elf genuinely questions if he is even worthy of such a gift. Tears begin to stream down the sides of his face as he innocently asks to accept Kella's generous command, almost as if he cannot believe this day has finally arrived. Kella gently corrects the broken dark elf, clarifying that he has no intention of ordering him around. Instead, they will now fight as comrades. And with that single declaration, a powerful bond between the Dark Elf and the son of the Demon King was forged. By nightfall, Kella's new allies had dealt with the last of the Earth Demons and had liberated all of the captive Dark Elves. At first, he was incredibly worried that something terrible might befall them in the dangerous outside world. But remembering that they are beloved by Mother Nature herself, he could only wish them the absolute best in their new lives, wherever they may choose to live from now on. It would be infinitely better than the hell they had once endured. Wood watches them depart, and a new group of 4 is now united. Rin, on the other hand, is already taking it upon herself to police the newcomer. But Wood is a diligent student and is prepared to follow their lead. Shreels believes their next move should be to find a location near a river. Thanks to his incredibly sharp senses, the dark elf indicates the presence of water in a specific direction. Rin is genuinely impressed by the newbie and showers him with praise, while Kella inquires about the strategic reasoning for seeking out a river. The mage informs him that they cannot simply wander aimlessly forever. It would be best for them to use a river to their tactical advantage. Rin excitedly thinks they're about to go hunt a dragon, but her hopes are swiftly crushed as the mage confirms this is not the case. Shrills believes their luck is so terrible they won't even find a single unicorn, let alone a mighty dragon. Kella is fine with following Wood's directions, and so the group proceeds onward, following his expert guidance. A short while passes, and what do you know? It turns out there are unicorns here after all, and they are enjoying a drink of water from the mystical, clear river. But upon sensing the arrival of a truly ferocious predator, they scatter in terror. And here is the truly hilarious part. There is, in fact, an actual freaking dragon there. Back with the group, Shrills continues to remind the foolish girl that they're not going to find a winged beast. Since we haven't checked in on Killian's elite squad for a while, let's see how their hunt is progressing. Curdle finds an earth demon desperately pleading for assistance, and she quickly realizes this demon is the sole survivor of his kind. Following the recent massacre, the white mage recalls their previous strategic discussion. Deed had been complaining about why the tracking spell had failed to lock onto their targets. Curdley explains that she does not have a simple answer for that, as she is detecting multiple targets spread across different locations. They were not expecting so many of the Demon King's children to have been left behind, and because of this, they cannot accurately pinpoint which one is truly Kella from the group. Curdley confirms this unfortunate fact, which only further irritates the rest of the group, because this means they will practically be wasting precious time in their attempt to hunt every single one of them down. Killian, as their esteemed captain, suggests that exact course of action. He plans to systematically exterminate all of the demons that are now scattered throughout the entire continent, starting with Kella. As he makes this request of her, the white mage then offers to teleport to that specific location on her own, which would be a much faster method of confirming their target. This strategy allowed the rest of the Taukin squad members to exterminate the other Demon King's children, while she independently searched for them. And that is how she managed to teleport to this location, using her spell and vanishing right before their very eyes. Gojo Satoru's genocidal son is over here, on the other hand, planning to wipe out the demons for good. Having now set foot in this cursed land, she senses the lingering traces of the boy's powerful energy here, which leads her to wonder if Kella had come here to pay a visit. The last surviving earth demon confirms this to be true, explaining how the boy completely annihilated their entire tribe. She then interrogates him about his current location. Unfortunately, the earth demon does not know and begs to be saved. But before he can even complete his desperate sentence, a bullet is shot clean through his skull, ending his pathetic and miserable existence. The white mage is utterly ruthless, and she has no use for worthless demons. Her next objective is to follow the traces of Kella's energy and to claim his head in the next scene. Our heroic squad finally steps into the heavenly location of the river. Our boy is incredibly impressed by the Dark Elf's amazing tracking skills. The simple fact that Wood was able to sense this river days ago from such an immense distance says everything about his innate talent. Meanwhile, Rin is policing him as per usual, reminding the Dark Elf not to get too full of himself. As a newbie, Kella suggests they find some food, since they have not eaten a proper meal for several days. Rin is more than happy to serve them, as she is an excellent fisherman. The river is teeming with plenty of fish for them to catch. But to their utter shock, the Dark Elf caught them all in a single instant. Wood reveals his incredible ability to control the very flow of the water, using his innate powers of nature, which was how he launched the fish directly towards him. Shreels is incredibly happy to have him as part of their team. Meanwhile, a jealous Rin is annoyed that she couldn't be the one to be praised. She even tries to be the one to start the fire. But Shreels is one step ahead and casts a powerful blaze, instantly using her incredible magic. Yet again, poor Rin appears completely useless to their team. Depressed, she walks away, sulking all by herself. Later, the group shares their meal, all thanks to Wood's amazing contributions. Kella sees Rin being a complete Debbie Downer and wonders why she isn't eating. Because of her perceived laziness, Shrills takes away Rin's entire portion, further adding to the poor girl's immense stress. For a while now, Kella has taken notice of his servant's sad, emotional state. To make her happy and to feel useful again, he expresses a sudden request to find some fruit. The loyal servant rises to this important occasion, eager to find some for him right away. And even though Wood offers to locate the fruits in a mere second, our bro urges him to stop because he knows that she'll be sad. He entrusts Rin with this super important mission, and she launches away to execute the task with absolute glee. Shrills is amused by Kella's servant, calling her a complete moron. Also, she takes notice of the boy's special consideration for the girl, and she even teases him for having fallen in love. Kella vehemently denies these accusations and acts like he truly just wanted to eat some fruit. Apart from that, they ask Wood if they can really find any unicorns around here. Luckily, they can, because he can find traces of their scent all around. Kella, on the other hand, is really hoping for a cool-ass dragon to come popping out of nowhere for them to use. But Shrills emphasizes that there's no such thing, just as she has tirelessly pointed out to them before. The scene then cuts to the loyal servant, who is happily searching for some fruits, and she finally locates them high up on top of a tree. She leaps away, eager to snatch the delicious apples, not knowing what kind of strange creature she is stepping on. Suddenly, the very ground beneath her begins to shake. But it's not exactly the ground. It is a wild, ferocious dragon looking at her dead in the eye. This girl's luck is truly the absolute worst for casually running into such a terrifying dragon. It was at this very moment that she knew she had messed up. The girl lets out a loud, terrified scream at the sight of a dragon, even though she was so incredibly excited to meet one just before. Kella learns from the talented Dark Elf that he can sense the natural energy of their very planet. It cannot be easily explained through mere words, but that is basically what happens. He can sense the powerful energy coming up from a great distance. His explanation is intriguing enough, and it causes our boy to wonder if it's similar to looking at a map. Shrills is extremely happy because they have truly struck gold with this ability, as they can now locate powerful dungeons with incredible ease. However, the only downside is that he can only search up to a certain limited distance, which makes the Dark Elf doubt his own usefulness. Kella wonders if it is possible to hone this unique ability via intense training. The Dark Elf confirms that there is one way to increase his proficiency, and that is by consuming the clairvoyant stone of a 1,000-year-old dragon. It is said that it will amplify his ability by several hundred times, which is freaking insane. Even Kella is like, what the actual heck did you just say? Several hundred times is a massive upgrade. But just like Shreels had said, finding a dragon like that isn't going to be easy, and there's no way for them to properly slay one either. Intrigued by the mage's vivid description of the dragons, Kella wonders just how powerful these winged creatures truly are. Shreel elaborates that dragons are supposed to be the apex predators in their entire world. Also, they naturally despise all demons. The only people who have ever lived to tame dragons were humans, with truly exceptional mental fortitude, which is a truly ironic thing, as it is pointed out by Kella, who remarks that the weak and pathetic humans are capable of taming strong dragons. Of course, the boy does not truly understand the weight of Shril's words, because she knows the true nature of dragons much better than he does. More importantly, the clairvoyant stone of a dragon seems even more impossible for them to find. Shril's emphasizes that they shouldn't get worked up over chasing after miracles over here when it is clearly a lost cause. Kella ultimately accepts this bitter and harsh truth, though he wishes for a way for them to find one for the poor dark elf. And now, back to the scene of the fruit-hunting servant. She's out here running for her very life, being chased by a truly ferocious and terrifying dragon. To Shreel's utter and complete shock, she cannot believe that they actually ended up encountering a giant living dragon. The entire group channels the raw energy of an Olympic runner, as anyone would in this truly terrifying situation, and they all run the heck away from it. Not even the powerful mage had ever seen a dragon of this immense size before her eyes. Rin just keeps on screaming, which only further draws the massive dragon's attention directly towards them. Their loud, terrified screaming is heard by the white mage, Curdly, who has almost made her way directly to them. After some time, the great dragon finds itself completely lost, questioning where the tiny little demons had gone. The group had luckily saved their hides by hiding behind some giant boulders. This causes the massive dragon to finally give up on its furious hunt. As it flies away, Shrills immediately roars at the damn, useless servant who had brought back a freaking dragon, when her only mission was to get some fruits instead. Meanwhile, the dark elf is still admiring the dragon's immense size. He assumes that this particular kind of dragon must have at least lived for over an entire millennia. Kella is in the middle of being completely amazed when Curdly gives him a massive jump scare by casually commenting on the great dragon, bearing a powerful clairvoyant stone. Not even Kella had processed that she was even around, let alone the rest of the entire group, who is like, where the hell did this chick even spawn from? He asks her about her true identity, while Shrills jumps up in absolute terror upon noticing the Talcan of White's world-famous mage. The group cannot believe that they have already run into a member of the squad, and that they have already been successfully tracked down. They immediately assume a defensive battle formation to defeat her at once, but the fearless mage merely stands there, calmly awaiting their attack. She's supposed to be a cold-blooded mage, with absolutely no room for mercy, despite her truly majestic looks, which I am sure are making some of you fawn over her incredible beauty. Kella is over here having a full-blown panic attack, realizing that his peaceful new life is about to be completely ruined, as his luck is the absolute worst for encountering one massive problem after another. Not to mention that he is now facing a truly terrifying mage as his next opponent. Curdly merely tells them to calm down instead of opening fire, exclaiming that there is no point in them taking this fight. This comes as a massive shock to Kella's system, who was not expecting to hear those particular words. The white mage then addresses the known traitor of the Talcan squad, and she argues that even Shrills must know that fighting her here is completely pointless. After all, this chick is so unbelievably powerful that she could end all of their lives with a single, simple spell. Completely terrified of her immense might, Kella seeks confirmation from the powerful, red-haired mage. Unfortunately for them, she's right. She truly can end their very existence with a single, devastating attack. She alone is far more powerful than their entire group combined, which is truly crazy when you consider the terrifying fact that Killian is probably miles ahead in power within his own elite squad. The main characters in this entire story are seriously cooked. The poor servant is frightened that there is no way out of this one. But Curdle explains that there is no point in fighting them, after all. If they simply follow her without putting up a pointless fight, she promises that they will live for a little while. Kella refuses to oblige until he hears where she is planning to take them. The white mage happily reveals that she is going to take them right back to her own captain, Killian, who is anxiously awaiting her imminent return. Shrills understands that the squad of white is already on the move, under their master's direct orders. Curtly emphasizes that their leader is searching specifically for Kella, so he must be taken. But the son of the Demon King is completely unrelenting and unveils that he is going to die, even if he does follow her. The white mage coldly remarks that at least this way, the boy will be able to survive for a little while longer. This entire situation has completely flipped the understanding of this world over inside of Kella's head. He had assumed that this was the miraculous, amazing world he had always dreamed of. But now, he is once again facing death. Our boy fully understands that obeying this powerful woman practically confirms his inevitable death, which is why he is willing to die on his own two knees, fighting death instead of simply accepting it from her handily. Commanding the immense power of his bow, he unleashes an arrow, which is casually blocked by the powerful mage. The rest of his squad unleashes their own wide range of attacks, with Shrill spells being completely unable to penetrate Curdle's magical barrier. The very same goes for the Dark Elf's desperate attacks, and in the end, her powerful defensive barrier reigns completely supreme, protecting her from all forms of harm. Interestingly enough, Rin is willing to prove her true worth in this battle and wants to show her beloved master that she can be useful too. And so that is why she's being extremely cautious this time around, or so she had thought, because she stupidly used a close-range attack right against her powerful barrier, causing Shrills to scream at her to immediately run away. The white mage uses this golden opportunity to show them just how outclassed they truly are. Unfortunately, Rin is hit with a powerful ice magic attack and is launched far to the side. As for Curdly, she coldly declares that she is perfectly fine with recovering Kella's dead body. To her captain at this point, the powerful mage then unleashes a barrage of blizzard projectiles from the sky. Luckily, Shrills was able to cast a powerful barrier of her very own to protect them all, even the foolish Rin. The piercing projectiles struck the magical barrier hard. Meanwhile, Rin apologized to her master for being so reckless and so completely useless, but even Shrills is clearly annoyed, pointing out that this is no time for her to be feeling doubtful of her abilities. Her magical barrier is about to completely break. Kella then questions if she's got anything in her powerful arsenal to counter the white mage's projectiles. Unfortunately, Shrills explains that they wouldn't stand a chance, even if she did possess a special and powerful spell like that. Curdly is over here opening up the gates of Babylon, just like Gilgamesh, and launching hundreds of incredibly sharp projectiles. The magical shield is rapidly shattering, and the moment that it happens, they're all completely doomed. The entire group is desperate for a way out of this sticky, terrible mess. Kella desperately hopes to find a way out, using his brilliant mind. Finally, an enlightening strategy hits him. He recalls the mysterious existence from inside his own consciousness, and he hopes to be able to meet him once again. Our bro begins to channel his own powerful energy from the inside, which comes across as a very naive move by Shrills, as his mana pressure would only serve to weaken the shield. From the inside, Kella concentrates his full, immense might, and he pleads for the same dark figure to meet with him once again. But that does not happen. Here is what has happened, though. The giant, ferocious dragon from earlier senses of battle taking place nearby, and it is drawn to Kella's overwhelming outrage. Sensing the Demon King's powerful energy now coming from the boy, she remarks that it must only come out when he forces the use of his immense powers. Now, she finally understands the real reason she couldn't locate him earlier. Be that as it may, the white mage is fully and completely convinced that this battle will be their very last. This is truly the end for Kella Caldoun. Meanwhile, our brave boy is focusing incredibly hard, practically begging to be given another precious chance to enter his state of consciousness once again. He assumes that it would only activate upon a near-death experience. But that does not seem to be the case this time. Shriel's magical barrier is now at its absolute limits and is finally shattered completely. The deadly projectiles are now fully thrusted in Kella's general direction, and this truly seems like the end for them all. Or so you had thought. Another plot twist. The giant dragon has come to their aid, looking mightier than it ever has, as it blocked all of the incoming arrows. Kella is completely stunned to see the powerful dragon helping their group, instead of seeking to kill them all like it did last time. Thankfully, the great dragon has now taken their side, much to the white mage's complete and utter surprise. Her relentless attacks do not stop coming, though. Meanwhile, the massive dragon seems to be drawn to Kella specifically, much to his own bafflement. Both of their eyes meet, and they suddenly unlock a hidden part of the dragon's memories. In the distant past, apparently, the great dragon had served Kella's own mother, which means that they knew each other. And the dragon grew incredibly fond of her, as they shared the best of memories. In this very moment, the dragon's powerful voice comes through clear inside his mind, ordering the young demonic boy to run away immediately. Kella is genuinely startled to hear the mythical beast's actual voice. The great dragon then spits out its most prized possession, its clairvoyant orb, which Kella then catches, much to his complete and utter surprise. He didn't know what it was until the great beast had confirmed it to him. Kella doesn't understand why the powerful dragon is doing him such incredible favors. The winged beast, unfortunately, does not have enough time to elaborate on the situation right now. He wants the boy to run away and to completely conceal his powers. Kella is still at a complete loss for words, comprehending the true meaning. But the great dragon senses trouble, and it urges the boy to make haste. And turning around, the creature responds to the mage in white with a powerful blast of fire breath. Despite defending herself from it successfully, Curdly is pleasantly surprised to find a powerful dragon actually helping out a demon, as it is the most unexpected of situations. Kella doesn't have any more time to spare right now, and he has to utilize this precious moment to finally escape. He gathers the entire team, and they all flee from the scene, with the great dragon delaying their inevitable demise. Even Curdly finds herself feeling a bit annoyed, seeing such a mighty dragon interfere with their important battle. And with the massive beast's involvement, she now has to rethink her entire strategy. The great dragon continues to unleash a powerful column of fire, its fiery output still unable to shatter her powerful barrier. Curdly wants to respond in kind with a powerful spell of her very own, and she lets out just a fraction of her true powers. This woman unleashes a magic circle that is even bigger than the dragon, and from that magic circle emerges a gigantic fiery meteor, targeting the great dragon from high above. The meteor's unexpected and sudden descent catches the dragon completely off guard, and in the face of his own certain death. The winged beast cherishes its most enjoyable and treasured memories, with Kella's own mother, who is always by his side. The massive meteor makes full and devastating contact with the dragon, killing it upon impact. Kella sees the sheer, awesome scale of the attack from afar, and he realizes the grim conclusion. A large pool of blood now covers the icy meteor. Having pierced the dragon's thick skin with great success, Curdly makes her slow descent, questioning the dragon's main objective to help the demons. She still cannot make out a sensible explanation for its actions, so she uses a powerful memory navigation spell to try and find out more. But right then, the dragon unleashes one final desperate attack. As the great dragon begins to disintegrate, the dying creature declares that the humans have been nothing more than selfish and incredibly cruel, and there will soon come a time when they will face sheer collapse and ruin for all of their actions. And with that, the dragon's massive body withers away into pure nothingness, leaving behind only ashes as his final remains. The noble creature chose to end its own life, to prevent her from unlocking the secrets of its memories. That much loyalty, just to get Kella and his entire group to mask their presence and to run away safely. Curdle finds this situation to be quite problematic, but still, she believes that it will not defy Kella Khaldun's inevitable fate. Extending her powerful arms up into the air, she confirms that the Demon King's successor will be killed at the hands of the legendary White Talkins. Having successfully escaped, the group ponders the dragon's erratic behavior. It was clearly trying to hunt them all down before. So, it is really strange how it switched up all of a sudden. The Dark Elf has a working theory. He believed that the dragon had only spared them because of Kella, as the great beast did appear out of absolutely nowhere. When Kella had concentrated some of his immense powers, the son of the great demon king was able to take a brief glance into the ancient dragon's memories, and he reveals that the dragon shared a deep connection with his own mother. But that still does not make any sense, as Rin points out the sour relationship between dragons and all demons. She's really curious about how they had ended up together. Even Kella does not know the exact details of their relationship, but he had sensed a warm and comforting feeling from their brief interaction. Also, the noble creature had left him with its clairvoyant stone. It is the one thing that they needed the most. The great dragon turned out to be the best wingman ever, for saving all of their lives and for handing them such a valuable prize. Shrills remarks that they were basically just saved by the demon queen. At this point, Kella is now curious to learn about the relationship between his mother and the dragon, as he could sense something powerful from the creature's dying eyes. He hands the precious stone over to the grateful Dark Elf, who humbly accepts the powerful stone. And finally, he will be able to undergo a powerful evolution. Shrills reminds them all that the Talcan of White is now tailing them closely, so they're going to need the best abilities they can get to help them out. Wood is still hesitant on using such an incredibly precious gift. It is the rarest of all items, and he feels guilty for using it. But in this particular case, Kella strongly encourages him to make use of it, as they have no one else that they can use it on. Wood willingly complies to his words, and he eats the powerful stone, the very moment that he swallows it. A strange and foreign feeling courses throughout his entire body. The Dark Elf then revisits the dragon's true and painful memories. 1,000 years ago, the young dragon was being tortured and experimented on by cruel, evil humans. They tortured the poor creature and enjoyed its inevitable demise. The torture continued every single day as the beast cried without end. Many generations passed, all in the very same way, as the humans continued to tear his entire body apart, taking various parts for themselves. It was the most brutal of all possible sufferings, and right when he had neared his final death, they always healed him back so that they could continue their experiments. The great dragon suffered through the same terrible fate for centuries on end. Imagine a fate like that. The poor beast had already accepted his grim reality and had gone completely insane from all the times he had been tortured. Crying felt completely meaningless, so the beast simply accepted his cruel fate. The humans considered it a great achievement, that they could make a powerful dragon stop crying from the intense pain. Right when the creature saw its inevitable and final death, Turk Khaldun, the previous demon king, began his great invasion of all humankind. He appeared more monstrous than ever, and he enjoyed slaughtering every single last human. It was during that great battle that the lab he was placed in finally met its collapse, and for the very first time in its life, the great dragon was finally freed, and that is how it escaped the hellish lab, all thanks to the demon's great invasion. Finally feeling the true freedom it had longed for up in the skies, it tried to find other creatures of its own kind. He openly confessed the dark and terrible truth about the cruel humans, and he wanted to ally with the demons to formulate a powerful attack. But to his utter shock, not a single one of them believed his powerful words. They had already grown incredibly fond of the humans, and they did not want to break their precious relationship. Plus, they hated the demons and were fighting them alongside the humans. But unbeknownst to most of the other dragons, they were completely unaware of the dark truth behind their clothes and personal relationship with the humans. The only reason that they had grown such an affinity to the humans is because dragons just like him were being tortured and experimented on for centuries on end. Those very same humans exhausted the dragons to continue their experiments, understanding more and more of their magic. But this dark and terrible truth was not accepted by the creatures of its own kind. They did not want to form a new relationship with the demons, especially since they had already strongly rejected them. And because the dragons feared that he would try to harm the humans, it was left all alone. There was no one to care for him, and he belonged in neither of the three great races. The lonely, winged beast then entered a state of deep meditation, questioning its very purpose for being brought into this cruel world. After all, He had now been rejected by all three sides, and he couldn't do anything. So it did not make any sense at all why he still existed. And that is how the great dragon began isolating itself all alone, in complete and utter darkness and solitude. His life was wasted for many long years as he awaited his inevitable end, until one fateful day, a weeping little demon girl came, rubbing her sad eyes to the giant and powerful creature. And that is how he met Carista, the lonely girl who had no one, and began calling the creature mommy. To the dragon's complete and utter shock, she ran directly towards him, not fearing the massive beast at all. The poor little girl latched onto the beast's giant snout, bawling her eyes out and treating the dragon like her own mother. Completely confused, the beast tried to explain that it was not her mother, and that was the very moment that something dawned from inside of the dragon. A powerful light began to illuminate, the light of true purpose.